Mas Fahmi, monitor. Bisa diaktifkan audionya, Mas.
Mas Zen, monitor Mas Zen.
Oke. Sudah aman, Mas? Sudah.
Video juga udah aman ya Mas?
Sudah, oke.
Ya, makasih Mas Zen.
Ya.
Mohon info Mas kalau udah full.
Oke, Mas, siap.
Makasih Mas Zen.
Ya.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Focus Group Discussions UK Indonesia with them strengthening UK-Indonesia collaborations on future energy storage. My name is Shinta Widyaningrum, and I will announce the rules for today. First, host will mute all the participants during the event. Second, presence link will be given at the end of the meeting on chat by the committee. Third, please turn on the camera for photo sessions. Fourth, participants may discuss with the speakers or panelists on discussion sessions using the chat tools on Zoom with following format: name, _institutions, _questions. Thank you for your time and attention. This is our agenda for today. Start from the brief informations about the events, and the second, introductions of the NBRI, introduction of NBRI website, keynote speaker, panelists, Queen Mary and Indonesia, and introductions to UK research and innovations at the Global Challenge Research Fund, introduction, Faraday Institute as NBRI benchmarking, panel sessions, participants, summarize, and closing. Now we will start the event with the speakers, Professor Dr. Renat Evi Kartini. She is a founder and also president of NBRI, president of Material Research Society Indonesia, and also chief scientist on National Nuclear Agency. To Prof. Evi, we give the floor to you.
Thank you, Sinta, for the introduction. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your joining the focus group discussion today. Focus group discussion UK-Indonesia 2020 on the strengthening UK-Indonesia collaboration on future energy storage. First of all, I would like to send my thanks and to His Excellency, the Minister of Research and Technology, Professor Dr. Bambang Permadi Sumantri Brojonegoro, PhD, who are able joining with us today and also to deliver the very important keynote speech for us to know about the Indonesian future energy storage. I believe this will be a very important point for all of us, not only for Indonesia, but also for strengthening the collaboration between Indonesia and UK and also other countries. I would like also to welcome the co-founder of the NBRI, Professor Dr. Alan Drew from Queen Mary University of London, for his spirit, has support for Indonesia, especially on establishing the National Battery Research Institute. I would like to thank also for the speakers, Professor Colin Grant from the Queen Mary University International Affairs, Professor Shaun Zarko from United Kingdom Research Innovations. This is very important, whereas the Indonesia will benchmark to this UKRI, and also to the representative from the Faraday Institution, where NBRI benchmark to the FI, and also to all the panelists that I cannot mention one by one, who also joining this important meeting, and also to all the participants. Okay. Before we start for the speech from the minister, I would like to introduce the what is the National Battery Research Institute, the history, and why this is important for Indonesia, and also for collaboration with other countries. So I put this powering Indonesia battery revolution that maybe we follow that UK has this Faraday institution powering UK battery revolution. So I think it's Indonesia also. We would like to have that should be a revolution in the battery. Furthermore, I would like to introduce what is the National Battery Research Institute and why this is important and what is the impact of the NBRI for this country. The story of the NBRI starting from where I chair as the president of the Material Research Society Indonesia, we have the roadmap to become the professional and international organization. So in 2017, we were recognized and accepted by International Union of Material Research Society. But if you see here, beside the having the international conference, yeah, we have also the plan to have the mapping facility, cooperation with university, industry, and also Indonesian Material Research Institute. However, the material research is too broad. So it's rather difficult for us to find out which one is the most important and then significant. So this time we start with the battery, the material for energy storage. So MRS INA, the Material Society, has been officially accepted by either member internationally in 2017 during the General Assembly in Kyoto. There are 14 members, including the MRS Europe. This is important for us to have this international collaboration among the society, because this is what, if you want to have more deep or some expert, it is, for us, it's easy to get a link with international. It is also, we have a certificate membership in 2017 during our meeting in Yogyakarta in 2017, where the president of Material Society Indonesia from IUMRS from Korea came to Indonesia to give the certificate. Another conference that we hold is the international conference in Asia, was taken place in Bali, and with the we have the welcome speech from the chair of the Presidential Advisory Board. More than 20 countries attended this conference. And last year, in 2019, we had this another conference was held in Bogor with many international participants. During that time, our consortium of the battery consortium endorsed us to launch the National Battery Research Institute during that event. So this is, if you say this, one of the, what is the newspaper, it's written that this time that it is important industry stakeholder to become together. Yes, this is, therefore, we launched the National Battery Research Institute. So during that time, we had also the workshop, the international workshop, where Professor Alan and others, Professor Agus Purwanto, and all the experts, the battery, we are invited to give, to deliver lectures. And so the attendees from industry, more than 55%. So this is, we know that how important this education and training workshop for not only for student lecturers, but also for industry. At that meeting, we had also some memorandum of understanding between Material Society Indonesia with the Austrian National University, Queen Mary, Ministry of Industry, Inalum, and ITB on the way of developing this platform for collaboration in material research and also in the battery application. During that time, Professor Alan showed how important is the NBRI that we launched. So he mentioned to us that to me that it's a great idea, Effie. Have you have the example of the NBRI be like? So I mentioned that we don't have the example. So Prof. Alan mentioned that the Faraday Institution in UK, it's a good example because it's gathering all the industry, the stakeholders, the research, and all facility into one, the Faraday Institution. Prof. Alan came back to Indonesia in November. We discussed the possibility for the funding. So finally, we apply for a Global Challenge Research Fund, then for establishing this National Battery Research Institute. And thank to God that in December 2019, there is a good news from for us that the GCRF approved our proposal, and then now we start with this NBRI. So afterward, we have to make the team, a professional team who can work with Queen Mary. So I introduce here, our team is Muhammad Firmansyah, Mr. Firman, as the project leader of NBRI, and also the Sinta Widyaningrum, she's the secretary of NBRI, and also this Aditya Triawigono is the finance to give the report of the financing to the UK. Our vision for the NBRI is to gather all the Indonesian stakeholders in battery research and production to help form strong national battery research and increase the visibility of battery research at government level. The long-term goal is to help Indonesia develop a battery manufacturing industry using locally sourced resources, which will enable Indonesia to be independent in energy. It has a vast renewable which require grid storage, isolated community that require localized generation, storage, electricity use, local resource manufacture. So I tried to design this. It is actually already a long time ago that in NBRI, it should contain that all this research institute and academy from university, because the innovation starting from there, that will give the basic science and the facility. And there is a platform here. This is the platform of the battery research facility. And on the right side is the industry. So the industry where this problem should give us the what is the problem and solve and something like this. It's the national research priority. It's in between here because it's close to the industry. And of course, we need the government support and investor for running this institute. And the societal impact is the intellectual property, industrial association, and standardization. We have the milestone. Yes, that is. But in the future, we have a dream that this NBRI becomes center of excellence, can be a pioneer, not only in Indonesia, but also regional and international. We can collaborate with any other countries. And then, of course, recognize internationally with the international source funding or national source funding. We want to be a government partner and also for personal certification, training, education. And we hope that we can collaborate also with university in USA. There is Battery University. We'll want to be a partner of industry, and of course, we will endorse Indonesia to have the manufacture of battery local resources. So we want to deliver also the valid information on battery by having a good expert panel in this NBRI, and then we'll validate all the data coming to us, and then also all the information. That is very important for us, yes, to have the validity. And the next, what is the other important is that if someday Indonesia have electric vehicle, and then all over Indonesia, it's not easy for example, if the main branch in Jakarta to have to come to like to Aceh, etc. So the best way is to educate the vocational student and other to have this. So we will join with to give the training with industry, and also help for the certification. And the other, this is education and training skill. This is very, very important. And then not anyone can do this, for example, for doing this battery or electric vehicle, they have to have minimum requirement. So this is part of the what the NBRI will do. And the others, that is also when there's company to find, to hiring someone which is the with appropriate level, the background, and also will try to as a hub. And the others, how do we know the research facility and what they are doing? And then who will do this research? And what is the industry in Indonesia related to battery, other upstream resources or the manufacture, etc. So from this, it is important because we are a large island to have the map. So what we want to have is one map, one click away that we want to have to find the researcher, either the researcher, the expert, or the industry, etc. So we developed this NBRI one map, yes, that later on will be introduced by our team. This is to make it easier for us. Maybe we can develop also where is the station for the charging station, and where is the local market, etc. Yes, this is, and the others that our consortium previously already tried to meet also the Minister of Investigation, Maritime and Investigation, and also our team, we have the audience in February with our minister, Professor Bambang. And at that time, Professor Bambang mentioned that the national research priority should be also in part of this NBRI map. So we try to accommodate this so the other, maybe not only from Indonesia, will know what is in the national research priority, especially on energy storage. We visited also land Bandung in order to know what is the capacity they have, the product, and also we already arranged once we hold the FGD with all the researchers, I think more than 14 or up to 20 with the industry coming to the first FGD in Ministry of Industry in Bandung. So we agree that this platform, it is important for all of us, yes. And then NBRI also will also maintain the collaboration with other stakeholders and discuss for example, about the standardization electric vehicle, about the resources, about what is current issue, battery swap, etc. So we'll try to accommodate all what is important in this issue. For example, this is the main why it is important because of this presidential decree that we have to have the electrification and should be used the local resources. So this is, it means that something that we have to discuss with the stakeholder about what they need, etc. Yes, that is important. We have the manufacture in national manufacture, and then this is also issue that what is the next oil is nickel. Indonesia rich with nickel, so we need also to discuss the next maybe coming about the resources. Yes, the question is, can we develop the lithium battery manufacture in Indonesia? That is our goal, to endorse the government, to endorse all the researcher, to endorse all we have to build by our technology, by Indonesian resources, by our manpower. This is very important. Yes, this is so we need to do in Indonesia. This is like the current issue we just discussed also. We need to find out whether Indonesia using the charging station or the swap or how. Yeah, so this is still not decided. And then also kind of the battery, this is Gesit have that. So there are many of what would be discussed about the energy storage, about battery in Indonesia, and also collaboration. And therefore, we hope that with the launch of the National Battery Research Institute will be very useful for all of us in this field, and we can also be a partner of the government, so to put them together into one NBRI. Thank you for this time. And further, I would like to ask the team to introduce about the website.
Okay, good afternoon. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The Honorable Professor Bambang Brojonegoro, the Honorable Speaker, the Honorable Panelists, and all the participants in Zoom meeting, conference, and the YouTube streaming. My name is Muhammad Firmansyah, and I'm the Project Manager for the NBRI. First of all, I would like to say thank you for the time that has given me to present about NBRI website. First, this homepage is of our website. Below you will can see about us. Okay, read more. Okay, they explain about NBRI vision, mission, and also the milestone about NBRI. You can see below, there's our value that NBRI have, that we are collaborate, we are pioneering, we are transparent. And for our team, as we know, the founder, Professor Epi Kartini, and co-founder, Professor Alan Drew, and me as a project leader for the NBRI, and Mr. Adit for the finance, and Sinta for secretary. And next, for the expert panel, we have a lot of expert panel in Indonesia that we have. We can see more detail if we click some of this. There's a short CV about the information about the expert that regarding about the battery lithium. Okay. We go back to the homepage. Okay, when we see the latest article, event, and any more information that will be uploaded by our team, and this is our latest event that we already have it. Okay. Okay, and showing the data, how many countries and participants with us, our article published and project, and also our experience. Next, our special feature is NBRI One Map, and the latest you can see the research project for the lithium battery. Okay, on the research panel, There are several main topics related to the lithium battery inside, such as lithium ion, beyond lithium ion, industry concern, battery characterization, Indonesia research community, Indonesia research highlight, and also Indonesia research priority. All these topics related to the novelty and research project, and also recent issue that being concerned in Indonesia related to the battery. Next, for the publication. On publication, we will republish research proposal that already published either on proceeding the international journal. Okay. On the opportunity, is panel that will show opportunity that will be given by the industry, such as a vocational high school internship, undergraduate internship, job opportunities, and industry fellowship. Okay. Next, for the education and skill, we also have education and skill where we will provide information more about education and training session for the student, undergraduate, PhD, and young researcher also. Next, for the news and event. On news and event, we provide the latest news about activity that we have done and also upcoming event. So we will give detail about news that our activity. Okay, the last one for the NBRI one map. Okay, we are having a special tools which called NBRI one map, where you can find the resource and the user of the battery manufacturer and research facility. You can just one click away to find all the information about the batteries in Indonesia. For the research map is collect the data about the company that produce a raw material in the battery in Indonesia. Okay, and for the end user, is a map that show the user of the battery Indonesia for the application such as like stationary and also for the electric vehicle. So we cluster the map for the stationary and also for the EV in Indonesia. And next for the battery manufacturer, it maps show about the manufacturer that produce a battery in Indonesia. Okay, that's all I share about our website. For further more information, you can contact us through our email address below. Thank you so much, and for the opportunities that given to me, I will give back to the floor, up to the moderator. Thank you.
Thank you for the introduction about the website. This is a great challenge for us, for NBRI, to provide such big data. And we hope that with the Ministry of Research and Technology and other industry and our research facility, we can complete and then make this one map NBRI to become really important and then easy for having all the information about the research, the people, and then the industry and etc. Thank you again for the time. I should give the next for co-founder Prof. Alan for to coming to continue as the moderator. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Firman.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone, for a fantastic introduction to the NBRI. It is my great pleasure now to ask Professor Bambang Permadi Sumantri Bojonegoro, I'm very sorry, that is a very difficult name for my English to pronounce, who is the Minister of Research and Technology for Indonesia, to give a keynote presentation for 30 minutes, followed by a panel interview with some questions. So over to the Minister. Is everything okay? Are we ready to go? I don't have a copy of his presentation. I was hoping that he would share.
Prof. Bambang?
Yeah.
Yeah, please, would like to have the presentation
Okay.
from, yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good afternoon for participants in Indonesia, and very good morning for participants in UK. Professor Evi Kartini and Professor Alan Drew, as founder of National Battery Research Institute, all the distinguished panelists, speakers, participants, ladies and gentlemen. I think it's good that we can hear the progress from the NBRI since we met at my office a couple months ago, prior to COVID, for sure. And during this time, it's a good time for us to reevaluate what we have done regarding this electric battery, as well as reevaluation of our program in the future related to the research between Indonesia and UK. So again, I would like to appreciate this initiative because it can also accelerate the cooperation, bilateral cooperation in research and innovation between the two countries. So let me start with page 2. Since I was appointed as not just Minister of Research and Technology, but also Chairman of National Research and Innovation Agency, then our main goal is to trying to mainstream innovation into Indonesian economic development. Why we need to do that? Simply because we know that without making innovation as a mainstream, it will be hard for Indonesia to get out of middle income trap. Currently, we are in the upper middle income country at the very beginning, so it will still take a long time, a long journey to reach this high income country or developed country. And in order to do that or accelerate the efforts to reach the high income country, one way to do that is by ensuring innovation is part of our main activities in economic development. Currently, our economy still very much depend on natural resources, and to some extent, we can only improve that dependency by improving efficiency. But in order to be one of the very few countries graduating from middle income trap, we need innovation-driven economy. And we need to do that by implementing the triple helix, which is the synergy among government, academia, as well as industry. So similar with this battery research activities, of course, now we are meeting all the academia side, from universities as well as from research institutions. But at the end, ultimately, you need to talk, you need to deal with the industry, because the automotive industry, especially electrical vehicle industry, will be the one that deciding whether they want to use your technology or not. And if they use your technology, whether you have to adjust the technology that you have designed for this electric battery. And of course, the role of government, including our ministry, is to facilitate the coordination or the interaction between academia and industry, as well as to provide regulation that will support the development, not only the battery, but of course the electric vehicles themselves. And as we can identify right away, one of important factors to accelerate economic growth is not just competitive human resources, in which Indonesia still has struggled, to get the human resources into the competitive ones. And then you need also social capital. To some extent, we have the social capital, but of course, we still need to improve that and to make sure the capital, is not decelerating. And then we have governance with integrity. This is another aspect that Indonesia is still struggling with, to make sure the governance is on the right track. But one of these four would be research and innovation, and this is what we are going to discuss related to the research on battery. So what will be our ambition or future mission? Of course, as I mentioned, we need to shift our economy into innovation-driven economy in order to graduate from middle income trap. And then in order to ensure that Indonesia will be implementing innovation-driven economy, we have to boost innovation itself. One way is by one of the impact would be improving our competitiveness index. Currently, our competitiveness index is relatively low for the country with the size of Indonesia, with the size of GDP more than $1 trillion. Our competitiveness is still relatively weak, so we need to improve competitiveness through improvement and innovation. And of course, we still need to be the agent of economic development through the innovation. Of course, we need to fulfill the expectation, including, of course, the role of the university itself. And of course, at the same time, we hope these activities in the electric battery will also improve university competitiveness by producing more international publication coming from intensive research on this electric vehicle as well as electric battery. So, of course, the development of science and technology will contribute something to the advancement of our nation. And in our ministry, in order to support the research and innovation that will lead our economy into our innovation-based economy, we are trying to focus on some areas of targeted research. First, research that will produce appropriate technology. The appropriate technology is basically in bahasa is teknologi tepat guna. The technology that is low cost, easy to use, user-friendly, as well as fulfilling the local needs. So that kind of technology will still be needed by majority of our people. And then commercialization and value added. Of course, we have plenty of natural resources. Indonesia is one of the largest biodiversity country in the world, country with the largest biodiversity. So we need to make sure that we can create the value added from our biodiversity and natural resources. As well as we need to reduce our dependence on import of many things. Yeah, we still, for example, we still depend on the import for medical equipment around 94%. 94% of medical equipment in Indonesia has to be imported. And we have the capacity, we have the ability actually to substitute that product through import substitution using, of course, innovation. And then, of course, we still trying to catch up with the frontier technology. So if we look some of the priorities, research priorities that our government is supporting, not only research institutions, but also universities, you can see one that related to the green energy, which we are trying to create green fuel to substitute or to replace the fossil fuel. The other would be how to improve the quality of local salts into industrial salts by improving the technology. So the NaCl, natrium chloride of this salt will increase from below 90% to be more than 97%. So it will be part of the industrial salt that we need, that we don't have to import anymore. And then on the military equipment, we are trying to create military drone. Now military drone is widely used for combat. Of course, we are not aiming for that kind of thing, but we still need to have the ability to produce our own military equipment, including this military drone, as well as to connect all the archipelagos, islands in Indonesia. We need to create amphibious aircraft, the aircraft that can land on the water, because some islands or some parts of Indonesia do not have any airstrip. But if you look at other products, you can see right away, one of them is battery for electric vehicle. So it means the consortium here, the NBRI, already in line with our research priority, national research priority, which is battery for electric vehicle. And of course, including the electric vehicle themselves. And as mentioned already in the previous presentation, our president already issued a decree number 55, 2019, about battery-based electric motor vehicle program. That will be the foundation for research and development and innovation related not only battery for electric vehicle, but also electric vehicle as a whole. So the idea is to accelerate the development of domestic battery-based EV industry, providing electricity charging infrastructure, and regulating electricity tariff for EV battery base, and compliance with the technical provision of EV battery base. So I think the purpose of the decree is quite clear. Indonesia wants to have a significant share in the electric vehicle production globally, as well as Indonesia would like to have our own capability in designing and developing the electric cars, including the batteries. And if we look at the growth of lithium battery power, I think everywhere in the world now it has been increasing. And in terms of the battery itself, as you can see on the right chart, the battery cost has been declining quite rapidly by years. 2008 still very high per kilowatt hour, dollar per kilowatt hours. But if we look at 2020, I think it's already far less than the original cost back in 2008. At the same time, when the cost is declining, the density, which is the capacity or the quality of the battery, has been increasing. So I think the direction of battery development is already on the right path to support the electric vehicle industry. And if we look at some of the producers of the lithium battery, you can see some of the big names, especially from Japan and Korea. And at the same time, we know that China is basically the biggest player in electric vehicle. I think compared to many other countries, including, developed countries in North America and Europe. So China clearly is already the main player, and Indonesia, with the size of population number 4 in the world, with also high demand for automotive products, needs to, learn more about this electric vehicle, because at one point in time, we might have to substitute the, combustion engine type of cars into the electric vehicle. And of course, if we look the global market of lithium battery, we can see that this is now one of the fastest growing clean energy segments. So whenever everybody start talking about green or clean energy, then one single topic that becomes very popular is the electric vehicles running on lithium-ion batteries. So lithium battery electric vehicles now becomes, one definition, and this definition is the most important thing in the green or so-called the mainstreaming of the green economy into major GDP or major economy. And then over 95% of hybrid electric vehicles flying on the roads were using lithium-ion batteries in 2015. Of course, the Indonesia direction for electric vehicle is go for 100% electric vehicle. We are not going into the hybrid. So hybrid basically is not the option in terms of the direction of electric vehicle. We will focus on electric vehicle, and I hope the NBRI can also direct the research activity to support the idea of full electric vehicle production in Indonesia. And of course, some big companies already invested in this lithium-ion battery. And let me share with you, although there is not yet any single investment on lithium-ion battery in Indonesia, but at least I myself have been approached by few companies, international companies, that's willing to invest in Indonesia because they see Indonesia is the future big market of electric vehicles. And they know that Indonesia has nickel as one of the important component of the electric battery. So that's why they see Indonesia as a potential site for investment in lithium-ion battery. So I think, again, what NBRI will be doing should support also the idea to attract FDI in lithium-ion battery production or investment in Indonesia. And if we look at the percentage of global extraction or minerals for the battery, we can see there are four major minerals: lithium, copper, cobalt, and nickel. And if we look at these four, clearly, we know that we don't have lithium in Indonesia. And I believe from this picture, Australia is the major player. And copper, well, I mean, we do have copper, for example, in Papua, but the smelter for the copper or the processing of the copper not yet built in Indonesia. So that's why Indonesia doesn't appear over there, and other countries already taking their parts. On cobalt, I think Indonesia is not also strong in the area. DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo, Russia, I think taking a major role. But in nickel, Indonesia is one of the important players, although it's not, far above others, but at least Indonesia is major player together with Philippines, together with Russia, Canada, and as well as Australia. And don't forget, Indonesia is one of the biggest nickel exporter in the world. And currently, we are not giving the opportunity for export of nickel ore. Instead, Indonesia pursue for the processing of the nickel into ferronickel, into pig iron nickel, and then also into stainless steel. So any derivative of nickel will be very much welcome in Indonesia. And one of them, of course, the battery. And this is the reason why there are some investors trying to locate their battery manufacturing in Indonesia. So again, the nickel will play a critical role to attract battery industry in Indonesia. And we can see on the next page, this page, that growing demand for nickel for batteries drive increased investment in Indonesian nickel sector. So there are more and more nickel smelter in Indonesia right now. And one of the reasons because now there is a higher demand for lithium-ion battery that also use nickel. And unfortunately, we haven't had any other refineries for minerals. We don't have it yet for copper, and I don't think we will have it for both lithium and cobalt. So we have to depend now on nickel, but I think the experts here in the webinar knows better than me. Nickel, although it's not, I mean, the battery is called lithium, but actually in terms of the quantity percentage, nickel is higher. So correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the reason why Indonesia should play an important role in electric battery industry. And then if we look at the battery requirement for electric vehicle in Indonesia, still the issue is about the charging, the charging not only on the availability of electricity, availability of the charging station, as well as the price of electricity itself. I think the reason why electric vehicle is not yet widely popular in Indonesia is not because the vehicle itself, is more about the charging. It's like we have the cell phone. If we have the cell phone, of course, you rely also on the charging, and the similar for this. And I heard Prof. Effie mention about the option between charging and swapping. Yeah, I think we will go for both. I think now we are also developing, I mean, of course, the charging station. In fact, we are trying to do fast charging station rather than just regular charging. And then on the other side, we still also working on the battery swapping, because swapping battery, I think, will also be helpful, for the user of electric vehicle. So before I move to the partnership between Indonesia and UK, I just want to share that currently there are consortium of 5 universities: Universitas Indonesia, Bandung Institute of Technology, Gajah Mada University, 10 November Institute of Technology, Surabaya, as well as Universitas Negeri 11 Maret, working on the consortium of electric vehicle supported by LIPI and BPPT. And then for battery, UNS, Universitas Negeri 11 Maret, is the leader in the consortium. So the development of electric vehicle in Indonesia will use the battery that developed by Universitas Negeri 11 Maret. Okay, and then our focus now on electric vehicle, number 1 is of course charging, fast charging and battery swapping. Number 2, in terms of the type of the cars, Indonesia will focus first on the bus and motorcycle. Bus will be large size bus as well as medium size bus, while for the motorcycle, I think Bu Evi already mentioned Gesits, for example. So these are the type of vehicles that Indonesia will focus on in terms of production. And we hope next year, 2021, Indonesia will start producing both the buses and the motorcycle, of course, in the large scale. So now our ministry is working with other ministries to trying to implement this approach, and especially for charging, I think it will be important, to make sure not only the battery is ready, but most importantly, the charging, especially fast charging. So back to my presentation, of course, NBRI, I appreciate NBRI because it can be an embryo of a stronger and better collaboration in research and innovation between Indonesia and UK. On the next page. In the 5 years, 2014-2019, there has been 22 research funding competition, especially Newton Fund, and then 15 research and innovation program, as well as more than 2,200 joint publication. So I think the figure on the right, I think is very important, especially for our colleagues in universities, in research institutions, because at the end, you need to have international publication, and it's good if the publication is based on your main research activity. And thankfully, the research activity has been supported by collaboration between Indonesia and UK. We already have MOU in 2020. I signed it, of course, virtually with minister in UK, as well as we already discussed potential areas of collaboration for this year, as well as the years after. And I attended both Newton Prize ceremony, both in Jakarta and in London. And I've visited, of course, several research institutions in England, in UK, and of course, we really appreciate if we can have stronger collaboration between the two countries. Of course, our basic principle in establishing international cooperation in the next page, basically we are ready for Indonesian betterment. Yeah, next page, please. We are ready for Indonesian betterment in research and innovation. And of course, we also open the possibility for the richness of our biodiversity as long as based on the equal intellectual property right. Might not be 100% relevant with the battery research, but just showing you the spirit of research collaboration between the two countries. Next page, please. Yeah, so next page. Yeah. And then we are committed to place research and innovation. Next page, please. We are committed to place research and innovation programs in national development agenda, and it could be leveraged into various international cooperation, and this NBRI is one of them. But more importantly, we have targeted goal in which the research and innovation activities should producing something that will improve the quality of human life. In this case, we are talking about electric vehicle that will help in terms of reducing the emission, reducing the import of fossil fuel, for example, and at the end, maybe we can have, not only cleaner environment, more green economy, but more importantly, our own ability to do innovation that will create not only the battery, but also electric vehicle. And I believe Indonesia has the aspiration to be one of the major producer, major player in electric vehicles. Because so far, in terms of combustion engine, we cannot compete with the, already the big name in the combustion engine, namely Japan, Korea, and also Western Europe, and to some extent US. But in electric car, it's still wide open. And then with the support from the government as well as research and innovation coming from NBRI and other researchers, we really hope that Indonesia can be the real player, and we cannot just act as so-called do the assembling of all the pre-manufactured cars, but we have the idea, we have the ambition to be the designer, developer of the electric cars, and hopefully we can have also our own brand, because so far in the combustion engine, there's no way we can compete with the existing brands. But for the electric cars, it's still wide open, except for Tesla, that is at the very high end. But we are now competing, or we are now trying to work on the idea of middle, upper middle to lower middle market. And I think it's still wide open, and the opportunity for Indonesia is still very big. And I really appreciate all of you here gather together in order to set up research collaboration in battery that will support Indonesia, hopefully stronghold in electric vehicle industry. So thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Prof. Bambang. It's amazing that you already given to us. This really not you already deliver not only the what is the policy, but also the future, and then give us spirit for all of the participants here, especially doing the battery research and of course, for the future international collaboration, and for Indonesia, especially that we have to be independent in energy. Maybe I just want to mention about this. There's some NBRI, of course, will direct the full electric vehicle using the also the battery manufacturer. Will support also the using of the local resources, and especially also we want to find to improve the human resources, as well as the international collaboration by looking for funding from abroad and then doing the collaboration. That is, thank you for the appreciation to us, and I hope that the Ministry of Research and Technology can also, together with us, improving this our dream together. Prof. Alan is there? Thank you.
Here,
yeah.
Okay, so I must admit that was a really interesting talk, and I'm really pleased to have listened to it. It gives a real insight into the direction that Indonesia are going at the moment. So one thing that we now need to move on to is the panel meeting, whereby we have questions from the floor. We have two panelists that have been identified to lead the discussion. We have Dr. Ana George Sobrido from Queen Mary University of London, and we have Professor Anne Sophia from the University of Indonesia. And so I'd like to give them the opportunity to comment and maybe ask some questions of you for the next few minutes. And then if there's opportunity, we could open it to the floor. Okay, over to, let's start with Anna.
Okay, thank you, Alan. Thank you, Professor Evie, for the invitation to this meeting. And of course, thank you to Professor Bambang for the insightful talk. There's a lot of data and a lot of exciting times for Indonesia, I think, with all the resources. And I think the National Battery Research Institute is really definitely going to be a pathway towards achieving the goal of electrification and electric vehicle. So perhaps one question that I have for the minister is about the electrifying transport, and what are his thoughts to electrify transport between islands? So let's say ships and boats, for example, which I think it's quite important aspect in Indonesia with so many islands. Thank you.
Yes, of course, we understand about the importance of the inter-island connection, but in terms of electrification of the transportation mode, I think our focus now, unfortunately, started on the terrestrial, on the land, because, for example, for railways, for train, I think we are now starting, of course, with the electricity instead of using the diesel fuel. I think that's already a progress for Indonesia. More and more electricity only using electricity, more and more train only use electricity for their source of energy. And number two, I think we will start with public transportation, especially urban public transportation. We're starting with the buses. Yeah, I think in Jakarta and several other cities, we are trying to substitute the diesel or the gasoline type of bus into the electric bus. Of course, as I mentioned, the issue is still the sustainability. I mean, the sustainability of supply in terms of charging station, as well as in terms of the supply of electricity itself. So with the limitation of charging station, that's the reason why our electrification is still relatively low compared to our target. But yes, we are trying to electrifying the transportation, but we'll start on the land transportation, both railway, train, and bus system.
Okay, thank you. Do you have anything more, Anna, or would you like me to move on? Okay, Anna, your microphone is not on, Anna.
Okay, so yeah, I have one. Perhaps it's more to do with a little bit more grid scale energy storage than electric vehicles. So perhaps I don't know if it's there, but I might just put it out there. So I've seen that it's a lot of potential pump hydro sites for being able to store like a huge amount of energy potentially. And I just wonder what are the thoughts of the minister on how that can perhaps limit the development of all the electrochemical energy storage technologies, since it seems that these pump hydro energy storage sites could potentially provide energy for the whole island.
Okay. Let me try my best. I think hydro power in Indonesia currently doesn't grow too much. Yeah, most of the hydropower now intended for electrifying some remote areas that have some river. You know, so they basically trying to utilize the water, the river flow, you know, to electrify the areas. So it has been successful in many villages in Indonesia. But when it comes to the big size of hydropower plant, we have I think one plan to set up a big hydro power in North Kalimantan province. It has big potential, thousands of megawatts, but of course it will take some time and it might have some social issue, because then whenever you build a big dam, then of course there will be some kind of, you know, what is it, the replacement, I mean the replacement of the local people, you know, because they have to move to other areas for the dam areas. So I think that's the latest figures about the dam. And you mentioned about the energy storage. I forgot to mention one area of the important research on a battery is not just the battery for electric vehicle. In fact, in Indonesia, if we want to move to renewable energy, especially solar and wind, you know that, you know, it's intermittent. I mean, it can be interrupted from time to time. So in this case, Indonesia needs to have the electric storage. And I think electric storage falls into the category of the battery research that you set up with others. So I believe electric storage has to be one of the focus of the NBRI. Otherwise, we cannot use solar panel and wind in the larger scale. Yes, we do have some solar panel and wind power plant. Unfortunately, when it's down, you know, when it comes to the solar panel, when it comes to the evening, they have to be replaced by back to diesel fuel. While on the wind power plant, whenever there is low wind, then the power plant doesn't function well, and as a result, there could be some problems with the power plant itself. So I believe electric storage, again, I'm sorry to forget to mention, it has to be one of the priority together with the battery for electric vehicle. Yeah, thank you for reminding me about this electric storage.
Thank you very much for your answer. Thank you.
Okay, so I'd like to now move over and see if, sorry, my screen has gone wrong. Here we go. And see if Dr. Anna Zofia has any questions of the minister, and then maybe we'll move over to an open floor with anybody who has any questions to finish off. Is Professor Anna Zofia here from University of Indonesia?
Yes, I'm here. Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank to the Ministry of Technology, Research and Technology, Prof. Bambang. I'm Ana Zulka from Faculty of Engineering, University of Indonesia. I would like to ask some question about the development of the lithium-ion battery in Indonesia. Since we have nickel, a lot of nickel in Morowali, we developed the nickel actually for the stainless steel is the most important thing. The steel needs nickel, but I don't know whether for the nickel we can use for the batteries. But we can make a battery nickel, mangan, cobalt, NMC battery. But for the lithium, I think we can dope the lithium with the nickel to improve the specific capacity of the batteries. But the lithium itself, we don't have the resource here in Indonesia. So how to get the lithium instead of nickel? Do we need the import from, first of all, from the Australia or for other country? Because since we don't have this resource, but of course we can extract the brine water because we have a lot of brine water in Indonesia. So we can extract this brine water, become a source of lithium. Because here we have collaborate with LIPI. LIPI has developed the lithium from the brine. And then this lithium, they have a percentage of lithium is still low, but we need to improve the percentage of lithium to make the for the battery. But instead of lithium, we also can dope this lithium by other materials such as silicon, tin, or even zinc. And then we also can add some graphene or graphite carbon in order to develop the specific capacity of this lithium-ion battery. But I asked about the development of the lithium-ion battery so far in Indonesia. Do you think that we can produce the lithium by brine water in Indonesia? But of course, we need some facilities. But what do you think about this?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the question. As you know, I'm not the expert of this battery, but I can share with you some information. Number one, now there has been investment going on to set up the electric battery manufacturing in Morowali. So they will use the nickel, and at the same time, they will just simply import the lithium. So basically, from our standpoint, as long as the percentage of lithium is not dominating the battery itself, then it's okay to set up battery manufacturing in Indonesia using the nickel that come out from the smelter, and then at the same time we can just import the lithium. I think it's a usual practice in manufacturing industry everywhere in the world, in which you might use some local materials up to certain percentage, local content, and then the rest, because you don't have the technology or you are not yet able to develop that product, then you have to import, which is still fine, as long as, of course, economically feasible. That's number one. Number two, since I met some of the potential investors interested to invest in battery industry in Indonesia, they always mention, yes, they know Indonesia doesn't have lithium, but they know Indonesia has nickel. So that's the main attraction why they come to me, why they would like to invest in Indonesia for the battery, for the electric battery. It means that, again, for investment, the most important thing, they are to be as close as possible to the market. And they see Indonesia as the future market for electric battery, because also Indonesia would like to be a player in electric vehicles. So looking at this perspective, they like to come to Indonesia, and again, they don't mind to do the important import activities for lithium. Number three, how can we produce lithium from other materials? I heard there was also one research in Surabaya, in ITS, in which they are trying to convert from salt into lithium. Yeah, I don't know the chemical, but at least they mentioned that in salt there is a lithium component, and from that they can extract the lithium. Of course, not only we have to check the technology in order to create lithium from other materials, yeah, including the idea that you mentioned, but more importantly, again, because this is at the end, is about the economic feasibility of the product, then you need to calculate how much is the cost of extracting or creating the new products. Yeah. So again, we will support any research leading to the lithium kind of substitution on alternative, but when it comes to the whether it will be used or not in the industry, of course, economic feasibility will be very important. I think that will be my response.
Okay, thank you. But actually, we have done some research regarding to the lithium. But of course, we don't use pure lithium, but we use the lithium ceramic, lithium titanate. But in order to improve the specific capacity of lithium titanate, we use some materials such as nickel, tin, or even silicon. So perhaps we don't need lithium, pure lithium, metallic lithium, but of course we can combine like a composite lithium. As we have a lot of nickel, so we can improve the lithium with nickel. So this is the idea. But we have done in Universitas Indonesia, we have done this, and then we have a prototype of this battery, but still improving. But of course, in the future, we can support the idea of the Ministry of Research and Technology in order to improve our batteries industry in the future. Thank you, Professor Bambang.
Thank you.
Okay, so thank you. I think I probably need to draw this discussion to an end. And what I would like to do is ask one more person, Mrs. Melidasa, who has a question. Just if we can have a quick question so that we can keep to time, that would be very much appreciated. Do we have Miss Melidasa present?
Yes, here.
Perfect.
Present. Okay. Thank you, Professor Allen. So, Professor, I want to ask you about the whole thing about relating to the future of electric mobility and the importance of battery storage actually for the nation, given the fact that actually the whole nation, the whole world is actually in basically sort of obsessed about electric mobility and smart charging and so forth. And I think that there's a plan for the government to set up actually a holding company, a battery holding company. Because in the past, I think that there has not been any focus in this area from the state-owned enterprises, right? And meanwhile, I noticed that from the negative list of investment, the battery industry is actually 100% open for foreign investors. And so it actually implies that this is actually a very hard industry, thus actually making it very incentivizing for foreigners to come in. Meanwhile, there is no local players at the moment. How do you foresee that actually we can close the gap? So this is not an opportunity that is missed again by Indonesian players and only becomes something that is dominated by foreign investors. I would like to know that, given the fact that I think that one of the holding mining company, Mine ID, also is very focused on the fact that it actually might be looking into nickel in the future. So I would like to understand your view about this and how actually the government is thinking and ensuring that actually Indonesian players will actually play a big role in the development of this industry in the future. Thank you very much.
Yes, what I understand from my previous position in development planning and now in research and technology, I believe the main goal of Indonesia in electric vehicle is to be one of the players. So not just the so-called a good assembly like what we have done with the combustion engine. You know, we just produce Japanese car, European cars, US cars, Korean cars, but we don't have the capacity to build our own. So you're right to mention that we don't have yet, you know, a strong brand to integrate all the technologies developed for electric vehicle, including the batteries. So it's good for state-owned enterprise to set up MindID as a holding or as an integrator actually for electric battery. And I hope it will be both for electric battery for vehicles as well as for energy storage. And I think PLN, who is also involved in MindID, should pay more attention to electric storage, because now our renewable energy in Indonesia doesn't grow that fast because we don't have the energy storage, and that's the reason why most of our renewable energy is still off-grid rather than on-grid, because on-grid you need electric storage. But back to the electric vehicle, I think it's quite clear that we need the brand. Yes, there is a small brand, and this is the decision the government has to make. What kind of brand that we will bring into the table when it comes to the electric vehicles, so Indonesia can put the stamp that Indonesia is now one of the electric car producers. I think we need to also to learn from China, because China already produce their own brands for electric vehicles, and electric vehicles in China has been the mainstream. At least many users in China already, rely on electric cars rather than the conventional ones. So in Indonesia, we will start the ideas by getting the brand, to name the brand that will represent both on bus and motorcycle. That will be our first priority. So we are not going into sedan first, but we are going into the bus and motorcycle. And then after that, of course, there has to be support from the government in terms of procurement, in terms of the support for the demand. And it will start with the public transportation. I think you will see maybe starting next year, our bus system, that now still use the gas or using the gasoline, slowly will be substituted by the electric bus. And University of Indonesia, for example, is assigned in our consortium to design a big size bus, to do the public transportation activities in several cities. So that will be the one, and then the others would be the bus for all the government officials, also the motorcycles. I think the motorcycles Gesit that is produced by ITS in Surabaya already part of Grab. Actually, they are already part of Grab Bike. But unfortunately, due to the lack of charging station, Grab doesn't really use the Gesits for now, because they don't want, suddenly the motorcycle stop somewhere in the road because the electricity is already gone. So we still need to do a lot of things in order to secure the availability of charging in Indonesia. But for sure, we are moving into, a bigger dream to make Indonesia as one of the producer of electric vehicles. And you can simply compare Indonesia to China. So we want to be like China in terms of producing electric vehicle, because it has not been successful in Japan, in US, in Europe, in which, the gasoline or the fossil fuel is still dominating.
Thank you very much, Professor.
Thank you. I think we need to move on now. So I have a request from the NBRI team that everybody turns on their webcams so that a picture can be taken of the meeting. So I'd appreciate it if everybody could now turn on the webcams. And in the meantime, whilst that is happening, I also have a request from the NBRI team to ask the Minister if he has any suggestions or comments on the website, which will be sort of a major part of our activity in terms of dissemination. So do you have any suggestions, or would you like to see any additional features?
Yes, I think the website hopefully should be like the ultimate resources for battery related research in Indonesia. Again, not only electric battery, but also energy storage. And also, we would like to see maybe more description and more explanation about the current research going on both in Indonesia and UK related to this battery research. I mean, more updated progress, more updated research activities, I think will be an enhancement for the website itself. In general, of course, the website is already a good one, but I think the most important thing after we look at the layout of the website is the content. And I hope the content could be like one-stop service for learning about research on electric battery in Indonesia and UK. I think that would be my suggestion.
So I have one last question, which is, I'm sure you're aware that the NBRI was set up with a GCRF grant from the UK, where I was the lead academic in the UK, and Professor Evi is the lead in Indonesia, from which we've managed to assemble an excellent team of people to deliver in the first few months of the project, what you've seen today. I have a question that this GCRF funding has a limited time associated with it. It will run out in about 12 months. So it'll be July next year when the funding ceases. And I was wondering, what suggestions do you have for sort of future funding of our activities? Because we can't really deliver without staff. The website itself, it requires costs associated with its running. What do you suggest for the sort of the future viability? How do you suggest that we go about arranging future funding?
Yeah, since electric vehicle in my presentation is part of our so-called national research priority for the next 5 years, 2020-2024, that means one suggestion is for National Battery Research Institute, NBRI, to be included in this national research priority with combined with the consortium of 5 universities. I think looking at the background of some participants here, like from Universitas Indonesia or from UNS Negeri from Solo, Universitas Negeri 11 Maret, I think the combination should not be a hard thing to do. So I suggest when you already start the activities, sometimes in 2021, why don't NBRI contact us and then trying to be part of national research priority, in which, of course, there will be budget support for the research and innovation activities. So that would be my suggestion, given limited time. Of course, we can explore other options, but that's the option that, I can think right away, to talk about the viability of NBRI in the future.
Perfect. Thank you very much for your time. And actually, that makes very good hearing in my ears. So thank you very much. I think now we ought to move on to the next part of the event, which is Professor Colin Grant, who is the Vice Principal for International at Queen Mary University of London. And I believe that Professor Evi is going to be taking over the chair of this. So I'd like to thank you, Professor Bambang, one more time, and I think for everybody. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Prof. Bambang, first of all, we would like to thank you very much for your time, your presentation, and really your willingness to continue the collaboration with the NBRI. Then, as in the beginning of our vision to be a partner of the government, and we want to give the impact for our nation, and will be a partner for also the researcher facility and all. Thank you again. Then we'll contact you soon. And before we finish, we would like to have the picture taken with all the participants. Would you please to open the video? One. One more. Okay. Thank you again for our keynote speaker today, and also for the panelists, Mrs. Anna, Prof. Anna, and Mrs. Melly Darsa. So we continue. We will continue to the next speaker. We would like to invite Professor Colin Grant from the Queen Mary University International Affairs to deliver speak about the Asia collaborations. For the time, Professor Colin.
Thank you very much indeed, Prof. Evi. Minister Bambang, delighted to make your acquaintance, and Shinta, I can see, has already stepped in with my slide deck. I'm delighted to connect, and in fact to reconnect with Indonesia. I have fond memories of being in Jakarta. I think it was monsoon season, so I got rather wet, but fond memories of meetings at Dikti. And of course, we have in Professor Drew, the most eloquent advocate and leader for collaborations between Indonesia and the UK. I think COVID-19 means we have to reimagine our relationship with the natural world, with our environment. And so this meeting is exceptionally timely. As a globally leading university in the Russell Group in the UK, the leading universities in the UK, I hope you will see from the following presentation a very strong commitment to impact and sustainable partnership. So with that, if I may, Shinta, could you perhaps just proceed with the deck?
Next.
And on to the next slide, please. So we have multiple sites across London. You can see there are 5 sites in London. Our history dates back to, so you can move on to the next slide actually, Shinta, thank you. Our history dates back to the 18th century, and in fact to the 12th century for St. Bartholomew's Hospital. We have 9 Nobel Prize laureates, obviously aiming for 10. And this gives you a sense of our scale. About £500 million of annual income, and 110 million pounds of that is research income. Research intensity really matters to us. Next, please. We have 3 large faculties. The faculty most represented today is the Faculty of Science and Engineering, and a number of cross-faculty centres. It goes without saying, of course, that interdisciplinarity is more important than ever before. Next, please. In terms of research excellence, you will be aware that every 7 years or so, the British government runs an assessment, a research excellence framework assessment, and this gives you an indication of where we stand in terms of the quality of our research, ranked 5th in the UK in some very good company. Worth mentioning also that we are 4th in the world for medicine and 1st in the world for dentistry. Next, please. In terms of our overall profile, we also have, I mentioned our 5 campuses in London. We have 3 major joint programs in China, and that's captured in that top right circle, 5,000 students in China in materials engineering, electronic engineering, and biomedical sciences. We're ranked 110th in the world, and of course, we'll break through to the top 100 any time soon. Next, please, Shinta. There are 6 different dimensions to our global engagement strategy, many of which I've already covered today. And in fact, this very initiative, this collaboration that Alan has been leading for us, is very much at the interface between innovation with global industry and, of course, global excellence in research. Without global excellence in education, benchmarked against the very best in the world, we would not be able to achieve our mission. So we've deliberately developed a very ambitious international strategy, and these are the 6 core dimensions. Next, please. In addition to our 3 major presences in China and our 5 campuses in London, we have a medical school. We were invited into the island of Malta by the Maltese government to set up a new medical school. And you can see it opened in October 2019. Here we deliver the MBBS, the 5-year medical degree taught by that's our medical school, Barts and the London. It's an identical curriculum to the curriculum in London, identical entry and selection. And we are looking to expand our presence in Malta into new areas, including maritime law. Next, please. I myself, in this very chair where I'm sitting, I'm delivering this from home today. I'll be in the university next week again. I remember convening a meeting with the Tongji Medical School in Wuhan, China, right at the beginning of the outbreak in the UK. So this was March, April, to help us understand how the Tongji Medical School in Wuhan was delivering urgent acute care in China. So we continue to collaborate with our colleagues at HUST in Wuhan. We have an active research network with the leading Brazilian Public Health Foundation, Fiocruz, and also with RMIT in Australia, with a focus on the understanding of disease trajectory and the factors that predispose some patients to develop the more severe symptoms. Another form of our national response to COVID-19 is that our colleague, Professor Charles Knight, is the chief executive of the NHS Emergency Nightingale Hospital in London. And we have provided support in all manner of means through releasing staff from their duties and providing diagnostic and protective equipment as part of our support for the national health response. So this has really energized the community at Queen Mary. We look forward to collaborating with others in Indonesia in fighting COVID-19. Next, please. On the matter of our partnership with Indonesia, I was in Indonesia, I think it was about 18 months ago now. We are deeply committed to partnership with Southeast Asia in a way that I don't think you will see in other UK universities. We now have an office in Kuala Lumpur, not so far from Jakarta. I think it's a couple of hours or 1.5 hours away. And our regional manager is Ms. Sui Mang Yi. She's based in KL and has responsibility for the wider ASEAN, as you can see. We have 20 active research partnerships in Indonesia, Thailand, and Malaysia with the leading institutions, with Thammasat, Mahidol, USM, and others, and about £2 million worth of funding awarded. And Alan has been instrumental in much of that, if not quite all. We currently have about 600 students from the wider region, 57 students from your wonderful country, Indonesia, at both undergraduate and postgraduate levels. And my staff are in Indonesia about twice each year to meet with prospective applicants and to engage with Dikti. Next, please. We have a number of memoranda of understanding with the 5 leading institutions. You can see ITB already mentioned by the Minister, UGM, Universitas Indonesia, Pajajaran, and BINUS. And we have 14 students joining us this academic year from Gajah Mada as part of a 1+1 agreement. We engage strongly with the diplomatic community in London, so your embassy here in London, and also with John Lamb, the first UK ambassador to ASEAN. So we are committed to ensuring that all of these arrangements become real and concrete and deliver sustainable partnerships with real impact in education and research. Next, please, Shinta. Indonesia, you'll be pleased to know, is among the top 10 most important partner countries for our Faculty of Science and Engineering. 6 active partnerships of about £600,000 in funding, in materials, remote sensing, networks, condensed matter physics, control systems, and biology. And as one case study, Professor Stephen Rossiter, head of biology, received NERC funding of £200,000 for research on biodiversity, environmental change, and land use policy in Sulawesi and Maluku with the University of Indonesia. Next, please, Shinta. This gives you an overview. I won't run through this line by line, of course, an overview of our top 10 collaborating universities in Indonesia. We do collaborate with the best. We always collaborate with an eye on real impact. So the MOUs that I sign are to deliver real impact in research, policy engagement, industrial collaboration, and of course, education. Shinta, an overview of what Indonesian students study at Queen Mary. You'll see that business management, also engineering, material science, economics, and law are particularly strongly represented. But we have a good range of a good distribution of Indonesian students across our faculties. Next, please, Shinta. We now have, as of 2021, a new Queen Mary Association in Indonesia, and Firdaus is our alumni ambassador. He's also a lecturer in IT law at Universitas Pajajaran. We're delighted to welcome him to our wider global family. And I think we're approaching the end, Shinta. We've set up a new Global Policy Institute, which its mission is to translate our world-class research into policy solutions, one of which will be sustainable energy. So not only are we invested in world-class research, we want to translate that world-class research into policy solutions. And policy solutions are always interdisciplinary solutions, difficult solutions. And to do this, we develop bespoke training, virtually, of course, face-to-face, inshallah, sometime soon, whether in Jakarta or in London, or indeed both. And in this, we are collaborating with Sempris up at University Science Malaysia in Penang. That concludes the presentation. My sincere thanks to Shinta. I hope to give you, Prof. Evi, and Minister Bambang a sense of our very real commitment to strong, enduring partnership with Indonesia. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof. Colin Grant, for the introduction about the Queen Mary University and also the collaboration in Indonesia, and also so far what is the current state of the what is the scholarship to Indonesian students. And maybe I just mentioned you have the regional manager in Kuala Lumpur, but you don't have in Indonesia. Maybe we should give suggestion. Maybe you should have one in Indonesia. I think Mr. Bambang will be very, very pleased. Since you have put us as the also top 10 of the for collaborating partner. That is maybe
an excellent idea.
Okay, yeah. Thank you again. So before the question and the panel will be after the other speakers. So we will move for the next speakers. Yes. Thank you, Prof. Grant. Yes. For the next speaker, we will invite Mrs. Shaun Zarko. She's representing from UKRI, United Kingdom Research Innovations. I think it is also this very important, since our Minister Research and Technology will also benchmark to UKRI, as I heard from Professor Bambang. So it will be good what is experience for us. Thank you. Welcome, Prof. Shaun Zarko.
Thank you very much. Thanks again to all for inviting me to speak to you today. And it's very exciting to hear the enthusiasm for this collaboration, and also lots of talk about impact and the kind of end results of the research that you're looking to carry out together. Next slide, please. So I'd like to just start with a quick introduction to UKRI for those of you who aren't familiar with us. So we formed back in April 2018, and we're the kind of primary research funding organisation for public funding in the UK. And we're made up of a number of thematic research councils, which collectively cover the full remit of research and innovation, alongside Innovate UK, that focus on private and public-private partnerships, and Research England, which is the UK component looking to fund and support our higher education institutes. And we've recently appointed a new CEO, Professor Dame Otterline Laser, who joined us earlier this year. So in terms of the kind of grand scheme of our plans, we've started this transition and reform into our new UKRI organisation. Obviously, as many of you have found, the COVID-19 pandemic has somewhat changed the ways in which we're working, and we're going through a process of reflecting on our priorities and how we approach our business. But in general, we're in this current position where we're looking forward to our new corporate plan and R&D roadmap, and are going through the process of building the next 5-year strategy that will cover our focus and attention. Next slide, please. Thank you. So obviously we have quite a strong focus on research and innovation, but I think the key point I really wanted to focus on here is the system level approach. So not just thinking about the specific projects that we're funding, but also thinking about how we support a dynamic and diverse and inclusive system that will lead to this long-term impact and benefit that we're all looking for. Next slide, please. And reflecting that, our mission is focused on catalysing and convening, so events such as this, meetings bringing together different relevant parties and communities to speak about the research and innovation that's required, thinking about how we incentivise and support high quality research and how we invest in people. So we heard earlier about NBRI focus on training and support for early career researchers and students as well, and that's a key part for UKRI. Next slide, please. So within UKRI, we have a centralised international function which looks at both international development but also broader global and international challenges, which is the part of UKRI which I sit under. And we are looking to try and provide a bit more coherence and consistency across the different components of UKRI and some leadership in our international activities. So looking at increasing our international collaboration, increasing the innovation for UK business, but also global business, and looking to seek solutions to these global challenges that we face. Next slide, please. So you may be aware of the UK AIDS strategy, which was revised back in 2015, and that really sets out the landscape under which funds such as GCRF sit, and they have this focus on key areas around strengthening peace, security and governance, around resilience and response to crisis, obviously something that's particularly relevant at the moment, about global prosperity and about helping the most vulnerable communities and populations in the world. Next slide, please. So coming out of that revision of the AIDS strategy, we've seen this very dramatic increase in official development assistance support within the UK and within UKRI. So a large proportion of this is relating to the Newton Fund, which was mentioned earlier this afternoon, but also the GCRF fund, particularly in the later years there. Next slide, please. And the two key funds that are of relevance from a UKRI perspective are the Newton Fund, of which Indonesia is a partner country, and the GCRF, which is the Global Challenges Research Fund. That's a £1.5 billion ODA programme between 2016 and 2021. And particular to this, as a very strong focus on challenge-led and impact-focused research activity, on interdisciplinarity, which was mentioned just earlier from QUML, and this piece around strengthening capacity, again, something that we've already been talking about. So in terms of GCRF, this came in 2015, and it has a strong focus on addressing global challenges, on strengthening capacity, and on supporting agile responses. So very strong alignment to those key parts of our AIDS strategy more generally. Next slide, please. Thank you. And it has a number of different delivery partners. So UKRI is one of those, but there are also the national academies and the devolved funding agencies as well, and UK Space Agency. So collectively, we run various programs and activities that sit under this GCRF umbrella. Next slide, please. And as many development-focused programs and funds do, we use the Sustainable Development Goals as an overarching umbrella to guide us in the areas that we focus on, and as a way to communicate on a global scale about the different challenges that we're looking to address. So obviously relevant to the discussions today, we have goals around affordable and clean energy, responsible consumption and production, sustainable cities and communities. There are lots of different touch points where energy and new approaches to energy and transport would be relevant. Next slide, please. So alongside this, there is a specific research agenda for GCRF, which again shapes the way in which the fund is delivered. And this has three key pillars around sustainable and equitable development, around economies and societies, and around human rights, governance, and social justice. And again, I think there are a lot of good touch points there in the clean energy, renewable energy space. Next slide, please. So whilst we have lots of different activities delivered under GCRF by different delivery partners, there are a number of key principles that sit across all of those activities. So first and foremost, this compliance with official development assistance, which essentially means that the primary aim needs to be to deliver societal or economical benefit to those countries that are on the OECD list of recipients. Again, this idea of challenge-led and impact-focused research, a strong focus on interdisciplinary approaches, on equitable and effective global partnerships, building research management capacity, research management capacity. So it's not just about improving the skills and experience of those carrying out the research, but also those in the research management offices within organizations who are helping support that work. And particularly timely at the moment, as we're coming to towards the end of this initial period of investment, is the idea of sustainability and legacy. And Professor Allen already mentioned earlier today about next steps for the NBRI project. And that's one thing that we're thinking about increasingly now, how we support and how award holders think about that longer term goal. Next slide, please. So I think it's important to note that as well as partnership at the project level, we're also, as UKRI, thinking about how we partner with other organisations in order to deliver development, research and innovation. And that includes both partnering with organisations in the Global South, but also partnering with other development funders and development agencies and services. So there's a spectrum of partnerships that we engage in to try and support this activity. Next slide, thank you. So we also have a set of challenge leaders, which you may have come across or may not have. They're essentially individuals, academics, who are seconded into UKRI to help lead us and provide some coherence, some better connections with the community, and to help maximise the potential from our portfolios of investments and our networks. We currently have 9 of those in the 6 key thematic areas: environment and resilience, global health, food security, cities and urban infrastructure, education, and protracted conflict and forced displacement. Next slide, please. So these are our current 9 challenge leaders. We don't currently have one specifically in the energy sector. That doesn't mean it's not a priority. It's just that those are our kind of initial cohort based on areas where we had significant existing investment or where there was a specific need at the time to further support the community and build those networks. I also just wanted to mention the International Development Peer Review College. So this is a virtual group of individuals, academics and non-academics, that are appointed to help us deliver our peer review activities. to input their views from a local perspective, local context, and also to facilitate some broader global engagement and some capacity building in the broader community. So around 95% of the college members are based in countries on the DAC list of recipients. So the 61 countries represented in total, 50 of which are on that list. And I just wanted to highlight that we currently have 3 Indonesian college members who are serving with us. We do have fairly regular calls for new members to apply to join. So that might be something that is worth considering in the future. There's more information on our website about the membership, about the role, and also information when the application process is open. So I also wanted to take the opportunity to just share a little bit of information with you about the current GCRF portfolio. So overall, there's over 1,500 projects supported so far. And you'll see that nearly all of that 1.5 billion pounds has been committed at this stage. Not surprising, given that we've only got a few months left now on this initial investment. So collectively, that represents about 150 different countries. And here, this is just to give you a sense of what the portfolio looks like. This shows the countries of focus, so where the benefit, the impact is intended to be felt. And the darker the country, the stronger the collaboration there to date. I think quite notable is that a number of the Newton Fund countries are fairly well represented also in the GCRF portfolio, I think in part because of those strong partnerships and collaborations that have been developed through that fund. So in terms of Indonesia specifically, this is slightly out of date. So for example, the NBRI grant isn't currently included in this, but until fairly recently, we had about 42 projects that are working with and focused on Indonesia, with 16 different academic research organizations and 44 researchers covered there, but also a large number of non-academic project partners. So that includes charities, governments, third sector organizations. And in terms of areas of collaboration, I think we've already heard about some of the priorities for Indonesia and some of the areas of collaboration that have already occurred with QUML. And I think there's some good overlap here with what we see from the portfolio. So strong focus around health, around response to natural disasters, the environment, sustainable communities, and the kind of military element. But we've also seen more recently some collaboration around COVID-19 response, and kind of most relevant today around renewable energy. And I've just picked out another one of the renewable energy grants collaborating with Indonesia there for information. There are some other quite large-scale investments in Indonesia through our 2 kind of flagship GCRF programs. The first of which is the Growing Research Capacity and Capability Program, which is a series of 37 projects that are focused on building research and research management capacity through collaborative research. And of those, next slide, please, there are 3 different projects that are specifically working with Indonesia. This one here led by the London School of Economics and Political Science on dementia care. Next slide, please. One on coastal environments and marine ecosystems with the Plymouth Marine Laboratory. Next slide, please. And one looking at seaweed aquaculture, which is with the Scottish Marine Association. Next slide, please. So our other flagship programme at the moment is the Interdisciplinary Research Hubs, which is a series of 12 global projects that are looking to address thus far intractable development challenges through highly interdisciplinary and collaborative research programs. And we also have one of our research hubs, which is partnering with and working in Indonesia, which is this one here, led by the London International Development Centre and London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, which is looking at stunting in children and adolescents. So it's a very quick whistle-stop tour of UKRI and GCRF. But you can obviously ask questions if there's time today, but you can also get in touch with us more generally about the Global Challenges Research Fund, but also if you're interested in our work and partnerships with Southeast Asia and Oceania in particular, then please feel free to contact me and we can talk more about the information we have there. I did include a couple of quick case study slides at the end. I think the slides are being circulated to you, so feel free to have a look at those at your leisure. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Mrs. Shain Zarko. It's really interesting. That is, we should look forward for the first. I would like to thank for the GCRF for funding us. This is really surprising for us, but we do our best to fulfill the requirement from UKRI and GCRF. And I hope that today you see that what we have done. Okay, but this actually we should be in London for the FGD, but unfortunately due to COVID, so we make it online. And we hope that GCRF will still fund us for the coming. Yes. Okay. Actually, there are still many questions we want to raise, but we should put at the end with the panelists. Okay. Okay. And then we'll continue for the last speakers, and then and afterward we will have the panel discussion. Thank again, Mrs. Shain Zarko from UKRI. Your talk, this is give us the insight of what is in UKRI, which will be the benchmark for us for Indonesia in science and technology, and also how broad you have the collaboration international, and then hopefully our Indonesian we can increase all the collaboration, also we can have more funding to improve the any of this kind of collaboration, and also for empowerment for the human resources. I think this is important. Yes, thank you. Thank you again. Okay, for the next speaker, for the last speaker, actually we would like to invite the Professor Alan Drew. Maybe I should know. Well, you know him already. He's famous in Indonesia. Okay, so Prof. Alan will talk about the motivation for the NBRI and learning from the Faraday Institution. Please, time for yours.
Okay. If you give me a second, I just want to work out how to do this. Okay, I have to share my screen, and apparently my computer has just stopped me from doing so. Okay. I'm very sorry, but I'm not able to share my screen. I should have tested this. Can I email Shinta my presentation and give me 2 minutes? I'm very sorry. This is very unprofessional. I've never done it before. So, okay, next. I just have to export my presentation to... So Shinta, I'm going to send this to you now. Would you mind sharing your screen and then sending it to everybody when you can?
Yes, please.
Okay. I'm sorry, I should have done this earlier, but like I said, I should go now. I've just sent it to you. It's rather big, that's the only thing. Oh well.
Meanwhile, Alan, can you maybe just introduce?
Okay, let me know when you've got it, Shinta. So, okay, I apologise for that. That was not intentional. I've not presented before using using Zoom. So, so why am I here is probably a good question that could probably do with being answered. So I started out working with a good friend of mine from Japan. Now he works from the Rickett Institute. I've known him since my PhD, so many years ago, 20 years ago. And a few years ago, he invited me to Malaysia to give a talk at a conference that he's organising. At which point I met some Indonesian colleagues, and then we decided that it would be great if we could work together on energy. Do you have my presentation, Shinta? That's probably a no. And so it started a few years ago, and then I came to Indonesia several times in the last few years. I've actually lost track of how many times I've come to Indonesia to give talks at conferences and to plan. And two years ago, I came, and it was suggested that we apply for some GCRF funding, only about a few £1,000s, to run a workshop to put together some plans for looking at renewable energy and sustainable energy, which we did. And during our trip to the workshop time that I was in Surabaya about 2 years ago, we were told that a second application that we applied for was successful, which was to set up the NBRI. And so I must admit, I was in Indonesia at the time when we had this, and it was just the most amazing experience you could imagine, being with all of the Indonesian friends in Surabaya and being told that we had the money. And so we started. Okay, so Shinta's not got the presentation. If you give me a second, I will try again. So yeah, so Shinta, so when I was in Indonesia, we got the money to set up the NRBI, which, like I say, it was the most amazing experience to be with people, whilst you know, that I was going to be working with for the next few weeks, months, even sorry, years. I'm sorry, I'm somewhat distracted now. I'm still trying to get my presentation across to Shinta. I don't know how to do this. I'm so sorry. This is so unprofessional. So export. Let me export this. I'm so sorry. I think it's taking a while to export. I don't know what to do. Shinta's not got the presentation, and I don't have the. I think it's too big.
Alan, you can just using your share screen to your computer.
Yeah, my computer said that I'm not allowed to do it. Share computer sound.
Yeah, share screen. Just underneath there is share screen, and then yes, just find the presentation and you show. Yes, that's done. Right.
Aha. So the problem was that my computer said that I don't have the security privileges to do it. So anyway, okay, I'm really sorry. That was completely unprofessional of me. I did say yesterday we should test it first, but in the end we didn't. Okay, so nonetheless, here is my presentation that I'd planned on giving. So I'm going to talk to you today about the motivation behind my work here, and as in Indonesia, and as I've already said, that I've been a lot in Indonesia. In fact, this was my first experience of Indonesia. This was sitting on Bali beach about 4 years ago, writing a research proposal on battery materials with 15 collaborators. So I was attending a conference, and here is indeed evidence of me being at the beach. And here are a few other pictures of my second experience in Indonesia, where we held the workshop in Surabaya, where we had some amazing food in a restaurant here, and we went to an amazing mountaintop as part of our excursion, and we did some really great science as well. And here are some more pictures of Indonesia. This is Lombok. Again, this is my third experience of Indonesia, where I found out that motorbikes are very useful for Indonesia. And then this is, I don't know, maybe my 8th experience of Indonesia, where I'm here with Professor Evi, driving a car. Now, where we had a workshop on renewable energy, where we applied for a large GCRF grant, which unfortunately wasn't funded, but nonetheless we still got funding for the NBRI. Now, after that, it didn't go so well. So back in February, this is me in Indonesia, and as you can see here, I was not in a sorry state. And in fact, one of the reasons that we're having this meeting in online rather than in the UK is that I've been in hospital for 2 months and off work for 6 months as a result of a nasty condition that I came down with in Jakarta. And in fact, if it wasn't for Evi Kartini, I probably wouldn't be on this planet today, because she coordinated with some doctors in the UK and my wife to get me the correct treatment, which saved my life. So I'm very grateful for that. So the question is, why are we here in why are we here in Indonesia doing some research into sustainable energy? Well, here are the 17 United Nations global goals for sustainable development that have already been presented by Shah in the last presentation. And our particular project, the National Batteries Research Institute, covers these, which is most of them, as you can see. So it affects poverty, because obviously it's about sustainable and economic development within Indonesia, generating a new industry, all the way through to responsible consumption. In other words, it's about ensuring that the consumption that Indonesia and the rest of the world does is one that is sustainable, one that is, you know, electric transportation and and the storage of electricity. And obviously, we are working in areas which contribute to pollution, so life on land and life below water. So there's lots and lots of sustainable development goals that we are working with here. And so the question is, why so much engagement with Indonesia? So here's an example of energy production in the European Union and in Japan. And you can see here immediately that even as late as 2015, the oil, gas and coal correspond to 3/4 of energy consumption in Europe. And it's even worse in Japan, where their nuclear energy production has gone to nothing, essentially, as a result of the Fukushima reactor. So you can see here that the overall energy consumption has gone down because of efficiency measures, but still 3/4 of the energy is produced by fossil fuels. And actually, Indonesia is a similar but slightly different story, in that coal, oil, and gas correspond to most of the energy produced, where you've got hydro and geothermal as the remaining maybe 20%. And you've got some future goals here. 2050, we're looking at most of the energy being produced by renewable and new energy sources, whereas oil and natural gas, even by 2050, will account for nearly 50%. So this is something that I care about, because I think it's bad for, fossil fuel is bad for the world, and it's bad for every country in the world, including Indonesia. And so there's some work to be done here with regards to energy production and energy storage. Now, of course, one solution is solar energy. Here is a map of the direct normal radiation in the world. The interesting thing is, most of the direct normal radiation is concentrated on the deserts, as you can see here across the equator. Australia also being quite a lot of desert. And actually, if you put a solar farm with current generation silicon power into the Sahara Desert, then something the area of Switzerland, which is a very small country in Europe, just up here, something the area of Switzerland would produce enough energy for the entire world. That's all energy. That's not electricity. That's electricity plus transport, plus heating, cooking, everything. Okay. So there's a huge amount of potential here for solar power. And then if you look at Indonesia, again, Indonesia is quite a hot, warm, sunny country, and particularly these southern islands here, Java and the ones to the west, sorry, east, has got the highest irradiation and potential for solar generation. So there is an enormous potential, even in Indonesia, with the high rainfall that you happen to get. There's still an enormous solar generation capacity. So unfortunately, the devil is in the detail. And Professor Bangu, the minister, he said that grid storage or off-grid storage is really important. Now, here's a graph of the energy makeup of California. Okay, and you can see here electricity is nuclear, imports is grey. This is mostly coal and nuclear, okay, for imports. Hydro is quite small, wouldn't expect that to be any different given California is a very dry place. Fossil fuels is quite a large proportion. Other renewables such as wind is 20% or so. And you can see here solar, you have a problem that if you look here, the solar is almost gone at the peak. The peak is about 7 p.m. at night when everybody gets home from work and switches on their air conditioning, the TV to watch the sport and cook. And unfortunately, the peak in solar generation is down here about lunchtime, about noon. And so there is a problem that solar generation is not the same time as energy use, the peak in energy use. And so you have to have some way, if you're going to go down the route of solar, you've got to have some way of storing the energy when it's produced so that you can use it in the evening when everybody gets home from work. And this trick there is has got to be batteries in my mind. Okay, so we need a way of storing generation. But again, energy such as electricity, which is what I've just shown in the previous slide, is not the whole story, and the transportation is almost entirely fossil fuel in the world. There is a rapidly expanding electric car and motorbike sort of area, in particular in Europe, and I'm hoping that will be the case elsewhere in the world. But still, the majority of transportation is done with fossil fuel, so much so that you can't really fit electricity on here. And so the UK government have got a road to zero strategy. The UK will end the sale of new conventional petrol and diesel cars by 2040. Okay. Now, therefore, we need to have what I guess they mean by conventional. It also includes doesn't include hybrid cars, but nonetheless, they want to end petrol and diesel cars and vans by 2040, which is only 20 years away, which isn't much. So electric has got to be part of that. Now, when I say this, Tesla, the most expensive car in the world, everybody's heard of a Tesla, the high end of electric cars, they are the extremely good car. So one of the challenges is represented on this slide that batteries have got, if you're looking at transport. It's the most expensive car in the world. Why is that? Because in 2013, one caught fire in Seattle, and the Tesla Motor Company shares plunged by $600 million in one day. Now, that's the most expensive car ever built, $600 million car. The reason that is that people are somewhat scared of electric cars because you can have this, they can just spontaneously combust as a result of thermal runaway, as a result of imperfections in the batteries. So there's a huge amount of degradation and safety work to be done with modern day lithium batteries. By the way, nobody died in this car crash, in this car fire, yet the US Fire Department responded to an average of 152,000 fire cars per year between 2006 and 2010. And this one car was responsible for £600 million. So there's also a loss of Tesla car motor company. So there's also an issue here that it's about perception of people as well about battery cars, as well as the technology and the loan technology that needs to be improved. So these 152,000 car fires are almost all caused by people crashing their car, in which many people died. This one car fire as a result of spontaneous combustion because of thermal runaway, nobody died, but they still cost lots of money. So we have a lot of work to be doing with perception of batteries and their perceived safety. So from this perspective, the NBRI can do a lot of work here in Indonesia and beyond to enable people to understand the implications of battery cars and their safety. Okay. So safety aside, this used to be my car. I don't drive anymore because I got ill. I haven't been able to drive for 6 months, more than 6 months, because of my illness. But nonetheless, my car used to be able to drive 800 kilometers with 45 kilograms of diesel in a 2 kilogram plastic fuel tank and took 5 minutes to refuel. The most popular electric car in the country is the Nissan Leaf. And to drive 160 kilometers, it has to have battery fuel cells of 1 kilogram each, but 192 of them, which means that it's roughly 192 kilograms of battery to drive, a fifth of the distance. So there's an awful lot of work to be done with the capacity and weight. Actually, we need to get the volumetric capacity and the gravimetric capacity of batteries up in order to make them more competitive for cars, for transport. I'd like to note that Korean cars are not better than Japanese cars. It's just the fact that the combustion engine is a liquid fuel engine, which is more mature and gets most of its mass from oxygen in the air, rather than having to store its entire mass in a battery compartment in a car. So we need better batteries, I think, is the other thing. And now we move on to the supply of raw materials. So if you look at the energy used for battery manufacturing, it's roughly 500 megajoules per kilowatt hour, which is 200 kilograms of CO2 per kilowatt hour of battery. That's an enormous amount of energy, enormous amount of carbon dioxide. This is based on 76% of the energy being produced by fossil fuels currently in the world. So that's 200 kilograms of CO2 per kilowatt hour of battery. Most batteries in cars are 60 to 80 kilowatt hours. And so you're looking at about 60 to 80 times 200 kilograms of CO2 to produce the battery in the first place. That's a huge amount of energy. The lithium extracts from a limited number of resources, which are politically difficult at times. They can be. Mostly it's South America. The cobalt, there are shortages of natural resources in a limited number of countries, and it's extracted from rock, which is an environmentally damaging process. Copper is used as an electrode as a current collector, and with high energy demands to extract. That's one of the major problems. And the graphite, natural graphite is from mines, in other words, coal, or synthetic graphite from petroleum coke, which requires 3,000 degrees C temperatures. So that's also quite energy demanding. And this is for conventional lithium ion batteries. So actually we need better and more environmentally friendly batteries. Now I've not mentioned nickel here because I'll come on to that in due course, but nickel is also an issue. So one of the areas that I'm interested in is sodium batteries, and this is something that we might want to consider, or may want to be considered in the future for Indonesia. In other words, alternative chemistry, because sodium ions are extracted everywhere. In other words, the sea. Now, one thing Indonesia has got is an enormous amount of sea. You can get sodium is one of the most it's one of the most abundant elements on the planet. It's just literally everywhere. So you don't need to use cobalt in the cathodes. You don't need to use copper. You can use aluminium, of which both Indonesia has got and uses much less energy in the first place to extract. And then graphite, actually, you can make it from biomass, waste biomass even. This is a picture of coconut husks, I believe. And you can make it from waste biomass. So you don't need to dig up coal or oil, fossil fuels, to make the electrodes. You can make them from low temperature synthesis of waste biomass that Indonesia has got plenty of. Okay, so now back to the supply of raw materials. Nickel, you may need nickel, I don't know, for sodium-ion batteries, but nonetheless, if you look at nickel, we have a couple of quotes from ministers here, which is next year, 20 nickel smelter is projected to operate in the next 2 years, will reach 31. We've already seen this from the minister's presentation today, that you're at about 20 at the moment. Okay, for many years, we've only been producing nickel ores. Processing the lithium batteries should make a big impact on our export and potentially reduce our 31 billion deficit. In other words, if you export batteries rather than the raw materials that go into batteries, you make more money, which does make sense. And Indonesia is the 6th highest or 7th highest country for world nickel reserves in the world, which will put it into a significant advantage when it comes to manufacturing. Okay, there is Indonesia there. So, and if you look at the map, there is a lovely map of this is cobalt. So you do have some cobalt reserves as well. If you look down here, there are some cobalt results, although there are more in the Philippines. Okay, so the interesting thing that I found was that Tesla have recently been looking to build a lithium battery raw material factory in Indonesia. Okay. They're not wanting to build a factory in Indonesia, by my understanding. They want to build a mine, which they can then export the raw nickel to make their batteries elsewhere. I mean, presumably in China and America. And I think actually this is not what we want. Okay, this is not what Indonesia wants. They want to make the batteries themselves because they're higher value products. They bring more of the resources back into the economic development back into Indonesia. And so from this perspective, I can see the NBRI having a huge advantage. It can really push back this tide of resource stripping, which is happens in Indonesia and many other developing nations. Okay, so that's my motivation behind working with Indonesia. I can see huge amounts of sustainable development opportunities, which can result in significant economic development of Indonesia. And I genuinely have, developed a love of the country. I've been there eight times now over the last few years, twice a year for 4 years, basically. It's a fantastic place, and I want to see my research in materials and sort of work with politics and government and industry to really make something big. And I remember 2 years ago, I suggested to Professor Evie, that we should consider setting up something a bit like the Faraday Institution in the UK, in Indonesia, to try and drive this change. And so I thought I'd give you a brief summary of what the Faraday Institution is in the UK. Okay, it's actually a grant awarding body set up by industry and government. So this is something the NBRI is not currently, but may become in the future. That's a political decision for Indonesia to make. But nonetheless, what it is a focus center which brings together academia and industrial research, development and manufacturing into one place, which is exactly what I think NBRI needs to develop into. It offers training courses, some of which I'll detail later. It enables collaboration via meetings, workshops, conferences. It acts as a conduit between government, industry, and academia. It informs policy on energy and battery research, and it's a virtual institute, which means that no actual research is carried out on its premises, but it does have staff and buildings that enable the research to happen to research collaborations to happen between universities and industry. Okay, their mission is the following. This is what they put on their website: to make a significant scientific breakthroughs in electrochemical energy storage research in the global race to electrification. Okay, and with a vision of a future which energy storage technology have transformed the world's economic and environmental prospects. Well, some of those things I've just covered in my previous slides, specific to Indonesia. So I think there's no reason why you can't have a similar mission. So one thing that they like to say is there are 186,000 direct automotive jobs in the UK. I don't think there are that many in Indonesia at the moment, but I don't see any reason why there couldn't be 190,000 direct automotive jobs in Indonesia, especially if battery production is is in Indonesia, and car manufacturing of Indonesian branded car is in, owned and branded car is in production. Okay, so the whole point in this is they want to collaborate, they want to be pioneering, and they want to make a difference. And I think that's exactly what the NBRI should be and is. So, and here, remember I said that it's a grant awarding body. Now, the grant awarded is £274 million, which is a significant amount of money, and that's how seriously the UK government take batteries research. Actually, that's how much money they put forward. They have a number of different research projects that are really important as far as the UK scene is concerned when it comes to batteries research. Battery degradation, multi-scale modeling, recycling and reuse, electrode manufacturing, lithium-ion cathode materials, of which there's still quite a lot to be working on. And then beyond lithium, of course, which is solid-state batteries, sodium-ion batteries, and lithium-sulfur batteries. So these are the research areas that that the UK research community are working in with this significant amount of money. But they also do outreach and education. So, for example, you can make batteries from lemons. I wouldn't want to use them personally as a source of anything serious, but it's an awful lot of fun to do with the public and school children. And this is what exactly the Faraday Institution have done. You can see here that they are getting school kids to make batteries from lemons to demonstrate how batteries work, which I thought was quite nice. So there's an awful lot of outreach activities that they do that I think, again, the NBRI could do in a Southeast Asian context. And there are some pictures of working with school children and the public. And then finally, they do a lot of training, and here's some of the areas that they train in. And again, these sorts of areas are important if you want to upskill the industry, upskill university undergraduates and master's students, where we can offer world-leading training on battery materials and technology. So there are many key challenges for the NBRI in Indonesia, and this is my final slide. And a lot of them are going to be similar to those in the UK, because essentially the same scientific problems exist in the world for batteries. We have the same issues. The difference being that in Indonesia, you might want to consider slightly different technology to account for the distributed power network in some of the rural communities. You might want to consider microgrids rather than having grid storage, but nonetheless, I think that many of the problems and many of the solutions are similar. We just need to ensure that they are emphasized from an Indonesian and a Southeast Asian perspective. And so I think that's probably me finished now. And I'd like to move back to the chair, who can take on the next level of the meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Alan, for motivation and also for inspiring talk, and also for your unending support for this NBRI, which is very important, not only for Indonesia, but between Indonesia, UK, and other international. Thank you again for your time, and I hope your present in Indonesia and to be a co-founder of the NBRI will speed up our research collaboration and also improve, yes, not only in the regulation, but also the activity, the research activity. That is very important, yes?
Yes.
Okay, maybe my suggestion, we can have the, what is the FGD, which is with special topic, and then how look for the funding, and then with some university lecturers, and then we discuss about that. I think this is also another what we can do. Okay, so we finished with the three speakers from UK. Now is the time for the panel discussions. So actually for the panel discussion, will you chair, Alan? But you will be in one of the, maybe someone will ask you.
Maybe I shouldn't chair.
Okay. Well. Okay. Maybe I should share this, or you can share. Why not? Yeah. Okay.
So would you like me to chair? I will chair. That's no problem at all. Okay. Okay. So I think we have three three panelists available to us, plus some questions from the from everybody here. I was thinking, would if anybody has any specific questions, it might be useful if you could contact Shinta, who will send me a message on this thing here to tell me who's next, so that I can concentrate on coordinating the speakers and the responses and the questions, and then Shinta can tell me a list of people who are coming up, so that it works much better. I think having people contact me and organize this might be quite challenging. Okay, so I think we do the same as last time, which is we open up to the three people on the panel, and then we move over to anybody that has any questions from Shinta. Okay, so I've just been sent something by Shinta already. Okay, that's what I have. Good. Okay, so firstly we have Made Dana Tangkas, who's the president of the Indonesia Automotive Institute. I was wondering if they would like to start the questions of the panelists, the speakers.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. Good afternoon, everybody, and Professor Alan, Ibu Evi, and everyone here. I have two questions for your very great presentation today. So I'm from Indonesian Automotive Institute, and since 4 years ago, be the think tank or the thinker of the Indonesian automotive industry, how to develop Indonesian automotive industry by our people in Indonesian, as well as also to develop not only the industry but also the product as well. So we are in the automotive industry have mainly some several activities for the people development, technology, as well as the innovation for support to the government, and also the SMI, SME, as well as the business and industry policy development. So in conjunction with your presentation, I have to point to be elaborate here. The first related with the cooperation Faraday institution with the NBRI. So as already also explained by Ms. Shine Jarko, and also from the Mary Queen from UK, is a very big support to develop the industrialization of the automotive as well as the people in Indonesia. So my first comment is please think in Indonesia the total ecosystem development. So not only manufacturing, not only the product, but also the people. When you think about the battery, that's the battery will be used in the electrified vehicle, as well as you mentioned in the energy package, including the battery storage, I believe this is very important. So how do you elaborate? How do you also consider the facility, the laboratory, as well as the testing facility, and also the testing evaluator. So I think this is very important to ensure our the best product quality to our customer. And also the second, in conjunction with your presentation also, you explained the experience in the UK, in England. I believe this is very good lesson for us. While no, also we have several discussion with the Japan, Korean, and also China countries to develop our electrified vehicle in Indonesia. So the point is, how do you develop? How do you prepare the implementation of this kind 3K technologies, such kind of the battery, electric motor, PCU, or maybe inverter in your country, so that can be run successfully to develop in UK. Maybe you can elaborate and tell us about your success story, or how do you develop, and also how Indonesia can learn from the UK. I think that's to point my question and my point. Thank you, Alan. Maybe you can later tell us. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm coming from this from a sort of materials physicist perspective. I'm very low TRL. I don't know if you know what TRL means. It's technology readiness level, and that's the level at which the research that you're doing is industry facing. So I'm a very low TRL. That means that a lot of the work that I do is the fundamental understanding and the why things work and the development of materials, which then go forward into the industrial research train and gets taken further and further forwards. So typically the way that that the UK will take scientific ideas, which is where I come from, into products, which is the other end of the TRL hierarchy, is via a slow subsidization of research from government. So the fundamental stuff that I do is almost exclusively funded by government funding. Then taking the product to market development stage is almost exclusively done by the companies. And the problem is that the bridge in between that is extremely hard to do. You need to take, essentially, you need to take a product that works into a lab and be able to upscale it into a production facility and maintain its properties at an economically sensible rate in order to then turn that into the final product. And so there's this middle bit is the hard bit, and the government funds something called Innovate UK, which is part of ACRI that maybe Sean can discuss. That enables that bridge between the fundamental ideas, which is what I'm responsible for as a professor in a physics department, through to somebody at a car company actually mass producing a product. And that is part funded by government, part funded by industry, so that it's essentially matched funding is required between government and industry. So that, and then the research is done, the work is done, split site between the universities and the industry. And I don't know whether Indonesia has a similar model whereby their high-tech companies are working with experts in universities and the research institutes to turn their brilliant ideas into products. I don't know whether that's something that is, oh, excuse me, my phone is going. There we go, sorry about that. I'm going to take this outside. This has been a deeply embarrassing anyway. So the Yeah, so certainly the government have got these Innovate UK grants and similar, which enable this bridge between industry and universities to try and upskill in industry via economy, whereby a service-based economy, whereas I don't think Indonesia is a service-based high-tech economy. But Indonesia has got phenomenal natural resources, which the UK doesn't have. And so I think that the way that Indonesia might develop is to make sensible, sort of take sensible advantage of the natural resources that you have, and then work with international organizations to develop those natural resources into something that's beneficial for the country rather than asset strip, which is what has happened historically, which I'm not fond of. But maybe Sean can give a little bit more detail on how Innovate UK works. I don't know if you're sort of able to do that.
It's not my area of expertise, but I will have a go. I mean, I think you covered a few of the kind of really key points already, which is that prior to us all coming together under the UKRI umbrella, the research councils were very much focused at the more basic research end of the scale into kind of applied research, but still not at a very commercial level. And we had Innovate UK that were very focused at the kind of commercialization, scale up and implementation end. And by bringing those two groups of organizations together, what we're trying to do is facilitate kind of bridging that gap in a bit more of an effective way. So better mechanisms to support collaboration between academic researchers and industry to do that translation piece. And so a lot of what they award is a more grant, we talk about them as grants, but a loan-based system to give the support required to kind of to test the waters and kick off that commercialization activity whilst the risk is still relatively high, with the expectation that then industry would then be more self-supporting and self-sustaining once that peak had been reached. And our colleagues at Innovate UK have come into the development space, international development space, relatively late on. So once they became part of UKRI, they also became part of the Global Challenges Research Fund. And we're still working through with them some of the ways in which we can have a more global focus. So a lot of their core activity is focused on UK business and kind of UK economy, whereas we're starting to turn to look in a more global context with them. So they're involved in things like the Faraday Institute and the Industrial Strategy Challenge Fund, which looks at things like decarbonisation, energy, biotechnology, and we're trying to now look at that in a more global context.
Okay. Do we have anybody else that wants to answer that question, or should we move on to the next question? Okay, I'm going to move on to the next question. So Magda, would you be Professor Magda Titorici, who's a professor from Imperial College in London and a good friend of mine. I think she's on the panel, so I'd like to ask if she has any questions of the speakers. I'm just wondering,
yeah, I'm here. I just not sure what, I mean, I haven't seen the speakers because I've joined late. I've only seen your presentation, so I don't really know what happened. Okay. Or really what this is all about, to be honest, because I haven't been given much introduction. So I am a bit confused.
Okay, so if you don't have any questions for the moment, maybe you'd like to we move on to the next panelist. Is that okay?
Alan, excuse me. Probably Professor Magda has some opinion about the collaboration with Indonesia.
Okay, but I mean, it's not very clear to me. So does Indonesia want to set some sort of big institute in batteries? Can someone give me some background on what is going on? Because I haven't been given any background. I've just been invited to this meeting and I've heard Alan talking about the Faraday Institution. So I am not sure what this is all about. Of course, collaboration with Indonesia is crucial, and Indonesia is a fantastic country and has a lot of potential for battery research. And yes, but are you gonna build the institute similar to the Faraday, and you want links between them, or what is this all about?
All right, so I guess maybe either myself or Evie could answer that question. What do you prefer, Evie? Do you want to start?
Okay. Just in general, because I have already presented, the NBRI, it is we benchmark to the Faraday Institution, and we would like to build this institute, actually like a consortium for the battery, which is we want to gather the industry, academicians, and researchers in one platform, and so we can have more information about what the research being done in Indonesia, and then what the industry, and then and what facility, and then who are the experts in Indonesia doing the research. And I hope with all this information can get easier for worldwide, I mean, people to see what is current status of the Indonesian in the battery research especially. And we would like to also to emphasize that as in Faraday, we are planning also to have also a training, education, and exchange maybe idea with the Faraday to the student, or maybe after high school student, vocational student, so they have the ability, they improve the skill. So this is a kind that, of course, what the NBRI would be a hub of worldwide hub, or a one-click way. So we have the one map that we can see what we are looking for. So this is Magda.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a brilliant idea. I don't think I have many things to comment. I think first you need to do the institute and organize yourself, and then we need to look for bilateral ways in which we can collaborate.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Professor Evie?
Yeah.
As I mentioned and also already explained by Professor Alan, and maybe can we elaborate, also work together with the Indonesian Automotive Institute, how to link with the practitioner, not only academician, but also with the industry perspective. And also I have a plan also to visit UK, maybe end of this month or next month. So if you have some message, so we can discuss in more. I think, yeah, that's my comment. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So I think I should answer directly, Mr. Made. This is very, very possible, because if especially on the education and training people, we should collaborate. Yes, so from basic science until the application for industry, that it can be done. Yeah, of course, the people not only learning about the theory, but also they can do directly in the what is the automotive, what is supply, etc. This is very important. So we should make this program jointly, and then the others, of course, this is why we want to put them as in the map. So as you are the chair also in Kadin and also in the industrial automotive industry, so we want that your team, your member are all in the map. Okay, but of course, to run this institute, and because we want also to give some scholarship for the young student, we need also some collaboration or sponsorship, etc. And the other thing, the most important also, NBRI should be the hub we have the industry concern. What is the problem in industry that we should think together? Yes, this is also a part that we can collaborate. So you're already in the expert panel of NBRI, so welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Good.
Okay, so we have 2 questions from the floor, but I think in the meantime, before we go to those, we'd have one last panelist, Meli Nuriani Dasa, who is from PwC Indonesia. Do we have any questions? Okay, is Meli Nuriani Dasa here, present?
Yeah, she already, yeah, she raised already a question to the minister before.
Oh, okay, perfect. All right then, no problem. I wasn't sure if she was still here. Okay, no problem. So we have a question from Indra Pardana. Would you like to give a question? Okay, I can see Indra Pardana tried to say something, but if you want, I can read the question out on your behalf because I have it in front of me.
Hello, could you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm Indra Pardana from Universitas Gadjah Mada. I would like to raise questions regarding, you mentioned something related to recycling of lithium-ion battery. I'm wondering about this process in UK. Have you done this kind of recycling in UK and how far is it going? Thank you very much.
Actually, this is something that I don't know very much about. I know it's a problem. I know that if you can recycle the components, you use less energy into new batteries. That might be a way of using less energy to make the batteries in the first place. I know that it's a project for the Faraday Institution, but actually this is far from my expertise. I'm not somebody who takes materials and works out how to recycle them. I'm somebody who understands how materials work in the first place. I don't know, maybe Magda knows more about this than I do. Do you know anything about this, Magda?
Yes, I know a few things about recycling. Could you repeat the question, please? Sorry, something happened. My cat got a bit crazy, so I got distracted. Can you repeat the question?
About the recycling of the lithium-ion battery.
Yeah.
I'm wondering about this recycling process in UK. Have you done such kind of a process in UK and how far is going in there in UK?
Yes. Well, obviously, recycling is crucial for lithium-ion batteries in particular. Is the only way to move forward. Without recycling, we won't have enough supply. In the UK, there are activities via the Faraday Institute, where there is an entire project dedicated to recycling, and I have done quite a lot of progress in terms of research. So I know that they are looking at various aspects, including some recovery of critical metals using bacteria, phytoremediation, but also ways of making batteries more sustainable, designing it with disassembling in mind, so putting things with aqueous binders rather than NMP, making things being taken apart, not using glues, between the cells and the packs. And there are also some SMEs now appearing in the UK, but also around Europe. There is a successful one in France, which is a friend of mine that has a company on battery recycling, and there are also some Innovate UK funded projects between various SMEs and academics in the UK. And this is something which I think is going to be very, very big. So you can't really have a battery research program without thinking of recycling. And even, you know, for the newer chemistries that are more sustainable, I believe recycling will still play a crucial role. You need to create a circular economy for batteries. So that's something that I'm myself interested in, and I've actually wrote an interesting review in Batteries and Supercapacitors about lithium recycling with some sort of industrial perspective in mind. If you want, I can send it to you.
Sure, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Magda. That's really useful. Like I say, this is slightly beyond my expertise. I don't work in this area, so I'm really grateful that you could answer the question. Okay, so to the next question, we've got a question from Alvaro regarding what caused the burning in the electric car. Do you want to elaborate on this, or?
You hear my sound, my voice? Yes, Alan. Yes, I have a question for you. Commonly, what the thing could cause something burning in the electric car? Use the batteries, I mean, like that.
Okay, so it's called thermal runaway. Is a major failure mechanism of lithium-ion batteries. And what can happen is if you have a structural defect in a battery brought about either by a manufacturing defect or just by use, you know, if you drive a car and you knock it into something, or even if the vibrations from driving on imperfect roads, so that can cause a structural change within the battery cell itself, which then essentially causes a possible short circuit through the battery, so that your cathode and your anode are have got a point at which is low resistance. Lots of current can then file down that low resistance path, which causes heating, because current flow heats, and then that causes more damage. The heat itself causes more damage, which then causes more heat, which then causes more damage, and so on and so forth. It's called thermal runaway. And once you get a fire within a cell, it spreads very quickly, and then the whole car can go up. And so that's one of the mechanisms that happens. And certainly there's a lot of work done on safety of batteries. So, for example, people puncture nails. They get a battery cell and they bash a nail in with a hammer, and then they watch to see what happens when you charge and discharge it, for example, to understand how materials might react with each other, which then causes a fire. So, you know, for example, in order to have a fire, you need to have a source of fuel, you need to have a source of oxygen, you need to have a source of energy or heat. A lot of research has gone into sort of trying to prevent that fire triangle from happening in lithium-ion batteries. And so they're not particularly unsafe compared to just driving itself. You know, I mean, there are far more people killed per vehicle on the road than there is killed per electric vehicle on the road due to thermal runaway. But the scary thing that people find about thermal runaway, I think, is that you can be driving along a motorway and then suddenly your car bursts into flames because at some point damage has been done, and that's gradually caused more and more damage as it gets hotter and hotter and hotter. So there are other mechanisms that can cause it. For example, you can have a solid electrolyte interface which sort of grows in a dendritic fashion away from the electrode, which then causes a short circuit, and that can come about just by the act of charge and discharging the cell. And again, this is not something that I'm an expert in, but it's something I know a little bit about. Magda probably knows more about it than I do, to be fair. She's more of a batteries person than I am. But I hope that answers your question. And it's a major part of research into real world batteries. You know, how do they fail, and how do we stop them from failing in an unsafe way? So, do we have any more questions?
Alan, there is one last question. I think before we
Yes,
should.
I do have a question if it's possible.
Yeah.
Yes, of course.
Yes, thank you, Bu Evi, for giving me a chance, and Alan as well. I would like to, well, in a sense, agree with Ibu Ana that we need a long-term plan, or maybe not battery, but supercapacitors with renewable sources or raw material. So far, we try to get clean energy, electric car or electric car from unrenewable sources, raw material. Long term, we need to go back, otherwise we will have problem as a fuel, as we have problem with fuel now. So I think long term plan, we need to have using raw material from natural resources if necessary, like waste. Like I have done my research in supercapacitor from corn cob and peanut shell. It's quite promising in a sense. Thank you.
I mean, I would agree with you that we need to find solutions that are sustainable. So, you know, one of the problems I outlined in my talk with lithium is that a lot of the components require a lot of energy to produce in the first place, and certainly with cobalt mining and some of the others too, the act of mining causes localized pollution into rivers, into the local environment, and that's something that is problematic for the world as well as the localized area. And so the supercapacitors certainly have their place. I mean, they're very quick, so they're very useful for certain applications. I don't know whether they will be useful for roads transport or grid storage as a result of capacity. They can be made from sustainable materials, but I don't know whether they have the energy storage capacity to really be something that you would want to apply in the in energy storage for cars or grid. There are many ideas that I have and others have that might be able to solve the problem of the lithium-ion sort of battery problem. You know, the high energy demands to make them in the first place, the pollution, and there's the scarcity of lithium. I mean, sodium is one of them. It's ubiquitous. You get it from the sea if that's what you wish. I think normally you'd get it from sodium carbonate, but that's everywhere as well. And certainly, if you think about novel chemistries, such as battery chemistry, such as a dual ion battery chemistry using dual carbon electrodes. So, in other words, you would have two carbon electrodes which are produced sustainably, rather than having to go down the route of complex oxides, which require cobalt or nickel. And then you have your electrolytes, which are also sustainable. It might be possible. And certainly I've done some back of the envelope calculations on dual carbon, dual ion batteries. And they require about half as much energy as a lithium ion battery if you do it right. The question is whether you can do it right. That's a matter of research. Can you get the material science correct? Can you get it so that you can get the volumetric and the gravimetric energy density high enough? Can you get the can you make them cheap enough? I don't know. Depends on the electrolyte, I suppose. So there are lots of opportunities there for new and novel chemistries that would improve the environmental impact of lithium-ion batteries and decrease their materials requirements of rare materials. And that's something that I want to explore over the next few years, actually. And I do hope that I can work with some Indonesian collaborators to work on this next generation of battery materials. Does anybody else have any comment on that?
Yes, I think your question is quite good, Mrs. Dwi. As Prof. Alan said, that we can have the collaboration on the biomass. Yes, biowaste material, that is very important, that we have a lot of that kind of waste product, and we should make it something that important. Yes, for example, supercapacitor from rice husk, graphene, or silicon, etc. I think this is that we will have that together about this collaboration. Thank you.
So I have one more question from Mrs. Ni Mei Dwidan.
You already addressed that. Thank you.
Already done.
Yeah, there we go.
One more question from Cipta. Actually, we should invite Dr. Hairul is still here. Dr. Hairul Hudaya. Okay. Maybe the last question before we close is from Cipta Panghegar.
Okay, thank you for the occasion. Hello. Hello, thank you for the occasion. Okay, I want to ask about. I'm really interested on converting the biomass into the carbon. So I know from the reference that Professor Magdalena have already done. Professor Titi Richa have already done the hydrothermal method to convert the biomass into the carbon materials, and we know that the carbon materials can be used to support and increase the performance of the battery. Is that any possibilities for the further maybe further research collaboration or another research from UK with Prof. Titi Ricci about the increasing the economical value of the Indonesian biomass and converting it to the electrochemically active carbon materials through hydrothermal or other fissile method like that.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for the question. I mean, sure, I'll be very interested in collaborating. At the moment, I guess I can only think that there are opportunities via the Newton Fund that we can potentially look to collaborate closely on this topic. That's kind of what we do in my lab, but you have to be aware that just by doing hydrothermal carbonization won't solve the problem, because you will still need to carbonize these materials in a furnace at higher temperature. However, hydrothermal carbonization can give you some sort of control over morphology, porosity, and so on. So yeah, I'm open to collaborations. We just need to discover the right mechanism to do so.
And same here, to be honest. I'm open to collaborations. I can certainly characterize the materials that you make, but the chemistry is probably best done with Magda. So myself, Magda, and Indonesian collaborators could certainly work together without any problem whatsoever. I think Magda's right. We need to work out the right mechanism for funding. Newton is certainly one of them. There are other funding routes that we can discuss.
Just to say that the Faraday Institution has opened a scheme to collaborate with countries from far away. They already had an initial call, but that was only open to Africa. So I think there will be more opportunities with other countries, but I don't know exactly what's to come, but hopefully Southeast Asia will be on their agenda, and that could be, again, a great opportunity where we could link with the Faraday Institute potentially. But again, I don't know what their plans for future funding. But this sustainable development and addressing more affordable energy storage solution globally is definitely something on their agenda.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do we have any more questions, or shall I pass back to Evie to close the meeting?
Yeah. Yes. Well, I think we have. Thank you, Magda. Maybe we can discuss about the collaboration. See? Yeah, we make a consortium in Indonesia and then try to set up the collaboration and then look for the funding in UK. I think with the topic of carbonization with hydrothermal or characterization, I think very important. Okay. Well, I think we a little bit run out of the time. Yeah, 15 minutes. So I think we reached to the end of this FGD UK Indonesia. First, thank you for all the participants who already joined with us, either from Indonesia, UK, and from other country. Thank all for the speakers, the ministers, Prof. Colin, Prof. Alan, and also Mrs. Zone Zarko from UKRI for interesting talk to give to us. And thank also for the team, Firman, who already shown and developed well the website. And then we're still working on that to have to fulfill, yes, the target. We will have a roadshow to research facility and also to industry and also to the maybe to the government to introduce what is about the NBRI and why we need this platform. And also we have some directive, I mean, from the ministers, to still to endorse about the electric vehicle, the resources, and also the capability building. And then from the industrial side, Mr. Made also, we have a similar interesting, and we can join either by training and industry and etc. So there are so many things that we will continue with this NBRI with different topic, webinar, talk, and special. Maybe the coming will collaborate with what is the resources about talking about the nickel, and the next time maybe talking about the recycling. Next time maybe talking about the charging station, etc. And we will collaborate with all the research institution and university in Indonesia that should be part of us. I think we should put any kind, any research in battery, we should put in our map, I think, and we should tell who's doing what. So this is what we been so far. And on behalf of the NBRI also, we would like to thank to the funder, to the GCRF, who has given the opportunity to us, and especially also to Queen Mary University, London, who lead this NBRI, I mean the funding, to propose the funding, especially to Professor Alan. So I hope that this is not the end, this is only a beginning. Then we start this all with one platform, one click away, and one map to have everything. Once again, thank to, maybe I should introduce the team. Once again, before we finish, Sinta, Adit, and Firman, can you show up? And Cipta probably, yeah. Can you show yourself? And before we finish this, thank for your really working really hard to make this happen. Yes, it's not so easy to give the idea between Prof. Alan and me, and then put all in the work, and really a tough work. But thank you again, Firman, for your professional leadership and to this job, and also Adit and Sinta. And once again, Alan, you say final conclusion, and yeah.
Okay, so I must say it's been a pleasure to work with the Indonesian team this last 2 years or year and a half that we've been putting this proposal together, and I'm actually really pleased to see it come into fruition. It's fantastic to see the website launch, and the minister earlier today say that he's happy to help us in the future with making the NBRI part of the sort of Indonesian research challenges, and actually agreeing that he might be able to fund us next year. I think that's fantastic, because I think without the support of the the government and the industry in Indonesia, this is not going to work. And the 130 people that have been online today, watching our presentation, that shows there's a lot of support from Indonesia in what we're trying to achieve. And I only hope that I can contribute more in the future. I have to apologize. This last 6 months, I haven't been working as hard as I could have been. I haven't been well. I haven't been able to put in as much work in fact, I've only been at work for about 2 weeks. So I had 6 months off sick. And I think I have a lot of, I'm very grateful for Evie and Shinta for everything that they did in order to make sure that I'm still here. So thank you, everyone. And I will, I'll see you in the next meeting that we have, maybe in person next year, hopefully. So thank you, everyone.
Before that, we should take a picture together. Can everybody show the video? Open the video. We'll take the final the pictures, and also who hasn't filled the what is the link for the e-certificate will be sent to you after you fill the absence. Yes, the presentation. Yes. Okay. 1, 2. Thank you for all the panelists, Pak Made, Anna, Prof. Anna, Magda.
Baby.
Ya. Dah semua?
Yes.
One more.
Thank you, Bu Evi.
Thank you, Bu Evi.
Ya, sama-sama Pak. So,
Oke, biar semangat.
Oke.
Okay. Thank you, Prof. Alan, Prof. Evi. See you sometime.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Di sini ada gesit juga tuh.
Ada ya.
Thank you, Pak Alan, Pak Made, Bu Evi, Bu Ana, Ibu Magda.
Pak Made, Prof. Evi, Prof. Alan, semuanya, Pak Budwi, apa kabar Budwi?
Ya, semuanya.
Ya,
Nanti,
semuanya. Ketemu.
Nanti kita diskusikan lagi, nanti kita roadshow.
Apa kabar Bu Ana? Udah lama nggak ketemu nih.
Baik Bu Dewi, Bu Dwi, udah lama ketemu. Kita ketemu di sini ya.
Ya, nah betul itu Bu.
Sehat-sehat Bu Dwi. Oke, Prof. Evi, makasih banyak Prof. Evi.
Grafiknya ya.
Thank you so
much. Alhamdulillah Bu.
Bye.
Thank you everyone. Bye-bye.
Ya, nanti datanya dimasukin di web ya. Ada di web. Ya.
Oke, live ya Prof. Evi.
Ya.
Makasih Prof. Evi.
Firman, Bu Sinta, makasih ya.
Bu Dwi, sampai lagi Bu Dwi.
Sama-sama Bu.
Nanti Bu Dwi harus masuk di map itu.
Iya, betul. Terima kasih Bu.
Ya. Ya.
Thank you everyone.
Pak Made, hai.
Ya.
Sampai ketemu nanti.
Ya, ketemu Pak.
Ketemu di Bali ya.
Iya, betul.
Saya izin pamit, Bu Evi.
Sama-sama.
Pamit bareng-bareng deh.
Ya.
Kita, Firman.
Ya, terima kasih Pak.
Ya.
Terima kasih Prof. Evi. Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam Ibu. Bu Indah.
Iya. Kenapa